Testing 1 2, mic check. You ready up there?
Okay. Okay. If everyone would get seated, we are ready to get started. I'd like to call the Finance and Ways Means Committee to order for February 26, 2026. Madam Clerk, please open up the board for roll call. Members, please record your attendance. Has everyone recorded their attendance? Does anyone need more time? Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Mr. Chairman, you have 16 members present. You have a quorum.
All right, thank you very much. Members, are there any personal orders or announcements this morning? Hearing none and seeing none, we do have 4 budget hearings beginning with the Department of Agriculture. And members, just a reminder that all the materials are on your dashboard, and we will ask the department please to come forward. We see Commissioner Holt making his way. And Commissioner, just a reminder that we will control the microphones up here. So once you're ready to speak, just wait till that red light comes on. You will be ready to begin. Without further objection, we're going to go out of session. All right. Commissioner, welcome. If you would please begin with introductions and who you have with you today. Thank you for being here.
Appreciate the opportunity to be here with you. Andy Holt, Commissioner, Tennessee Department of Agriculture, here representing not only Governor Lee, but the 772 other employees that find their home at the Tennessee Department of Agriculture. We've got a few of those employees with us today, and if you would be so kind, I'd like to have the opportunity to allow them to introduce themselves, starting down here on the end with Dr. Beatty.
Good morning, Dr. Samantha Beatty, State Veterinarian.
Ryan King, Deputy Commissioner. Always a pleasure to be in front of the House, especially this esteemed committee.
Samantha Wilson, Chief Budget Officer.
Good morning, Heather Slayton, State Forester.
Adam Travis, Assistant Commissioner for Consumer and Industry Services.
Well, Chairman, appreciate the opportunity to be here with you. And as many of you all have probably done quite before, not only do we want to answer the questions that you all have relative to our budget, but I'd like to give a little background on a question that you didn't ask, and that is relative to our response to Winter Storm Fern. As many of y'all are aware of, I think members, you should have, I believe, a handout in front of you right now, specifically given some information relative to our response as a department to Winter Storm Fern. We had 16 counties that were supported, and several of you, all your districts are recognized in this particular map. And if you have any questions about that, please let us know. But we certainly are here to serve, support, and promote. And whether that is in the midst of a storm or in some other way, that's the mission that we have at the Department of Agriculture. We take that very seriously, and we appreciate the efforts that our Division of Forestry specifically put toward that effort. With that, we'll turn toward our budget, and I think you all have the slides there for us. Appreciate that. I didn't realize you were working that, Samantha, but good deal. So our 2026-2027 cost increases, we've got those listed here. I'm sure you all are aware. I wish there was a lot more line items on this that we could talk about, but we recognize that the budget is constricted, and to some degree we're recognizing that and accommodating that, but we certainly are appreciative of the items that are currently placed in the governor's budget, and certainly want to give you all details on any of these specific items. And I'll just run through these really quickly. So we have an issue in Tennessee that many of you all may be aware of, but maybe the degree to which this issue has really started to impact Tennesseans be quite shocking when you dig into it. Right now, about we're in the 90th percentile of risk for communities around the country right now relative to wildfire. And a lot of folks would say, had no idea. I literally remember calling Heather, our state forester, when LA was on fire, however long ago that was, a year and a few months, whatever. And I said, and things like this can't happen. And she said, actually, it could. And it could happen in places, not just in rural communities, but it could also happen in some urban centers across the state. And that's something that we are not typically accustomed to thinking is something that could impact a homeowner, especially those who may be quite a bit away from a very natural, open, forested area. But because we are so proficient at growing trees here in the state of Tennessee, it's something that we need to be prepared for. So we've asked for 9 full-time positions. In essence, we're asking for 9 positions, but the net is once we bring on these 9 positions, it'll be actually a net loss of 1 position. We currently have 10 part-time contract positions that these 9 positions will substitute. These folks will work with the approximately 1,000 fire departments and 90 emergency management agencies across the state of Tennessee, not only in the response to wildfire, but most importantly, the prevention of wildfire is what this team will be focused on. That's a $1.318 million request. That's one of the 3 cost increases. Number 2 on the list here is Consumer and Industry Services, which is headed up by Dr. Travis down here on the end. And this particular request is also for 9 positions of various inspectors. So in 2024, we were provided a cost increase that was funded through our Ag Reg Fund for 9 positions, and that was set to sunset this year, 2026. Revenue has been found to be sufficient for us to carry on those positions, and also the demand for services not only remains, but continues to increase. From the time that I sat up here in this committee, when we had a population in Tennessee of about 6.6 million, we've increased that to over 7 million people. And in essence, what we see is that the services that are being demanded from the Department of Agriculture are continuing to increase because our population is continuing to increase. So we would appreciate the opportunity to have these cost increases relative to these 9 positions also moved forward by this esteemed committee. Last, and this is not only a great opportunity to give back to the community, but it's a feel-good request as well. So Cultivate is celebrating their 10-year anniversary. If y'all are not familiar with Cultivate, it is headed up by a young man named Joey Langford. It is a wonderful opportunity to help bring folks who have been in the justice system and give them an opportunity to exit that system and learn some new skills. And their skills that they're learning through this program are really primarily focused on agricultural skills. If this is something that you have an interest in seeing, we'd love to invite you onto campus. As far as we know, we're the only Department of Agriculture in the United States that's actually housed on a working farm, thanks to the activities that are provided by Cultivate. This is a $500,000 grant, and it's a cost increase that we also are advocating for on behalf of Cultivate. As for reductions, we can run through these reductions pretty quickly, but we've obviously recognized that there are opportunities for us to reduce our budget. The first here is a timber sales, it's a funding swap opportunity similar to the second relative to motor fuel revenue. Just to give some context on this appropriation or reduction of appropriation of $200,000. The Chickasaw State Forest has just recently, within the last couple of weeks, given the opportunity for locals to bid on some standing timber that we have. And we received 2 bids on 2 separate tracts, $103,000 and $314,000. So although a reduction in our budget, this will be something that we can pretty easily accommodate. Again, the second being the motor fuel revenue funding swap. Many of you all, I think, are familiar with this process. I'm pretty certain that there's probably other departments that are looking to that as a reduction as well. And then also the benefit equity pool that we have available as TDA continues to see new hires, and as we transfer out of the legacy system and into the hybrid plan, just the cost of those plans are reduced to the state, the burden for us. And so that's another one of the ways that we're looking to assume those reductions. For the 2026-27 capital projects, what we have are 2 specific. One really is a project itself. Heather can provide plenty more clarity, but we do have the Pinson seating cooler replacement. So we have a pretty large distribution network for trees across the state. Pinson is one that will, throughout the course of the year, I think, receive well over, over a million seedlings that'll come through there a year. As a state that's 52, 53% forested, seedlings and the care of those seedlings and reforestation opportunities are very important to us. And so this is one of the ways that we're facilitating that unique advantage that we have. We also have the Porter and Ivy replacement lab design. This is $6 million that's been granted to us to study not only the current laboratory that we have and not just replacing that lab. This is an internal conversation that we're having, but looking toward the future. So we have a current lab that's providing current services, but what we want to do is through this $6 million, look at what do we need 10 years from now as it relates to laboratory services for agriculture. And we see that there is some opportunity for growth. And we hope that during the process of expending the $6 million, we can come up with a plan that will be more easily funded in the next General Assembly, hopefully for that laboratory. In coming down toward the pike of concluding, did want to talk about our American Rescue Plan Act funding. I would say that we have, as a department, done not just a good job, but an excellent job of employing those federal resources and making sure that they don't just get spent on something, but get directly joined into agriculture and forest products producers all across the state, or in some cases, those who are in need. But we had a total of 5 projects where we were allocated $124.8 million. And we're really proud of the way that we've been able to utilize these funds. And so we've got these milestone expenditures that we can show for each of those 5 areas. Farm and Tough. So we had a program that we focused directly toward producers in rural areas called Farm, Forestry, Agriculture, and Rural Markets. Then we also had an urban focused program as well. So Tennessee Urban Forestry Program. And this was an opportunity to fund both inner city and rural projects through the what were intended to be 3, but now have been 4 application rounds. We have 21.1 million of that's actually that has gone out the door, but the allocated number is actually higher. We're waiting for several of those projects to come to their conclusion. We won't recognize that expense in that 21.1 million until those checks have actually been distributed to the producers themselves. So a little bit of a false reading on that 21.1 of 50 million. More money is allocated toward that project than what it might look like there. Also, the Farm to Food Banks grant has been a great opportunity for producers all across the state. You can see the details there. 1.5 million plus pounds of local food that's been purchased from Tennessee producers. That's a win, no matter who you are. That's wonderful. And we're still on the path. That's created opportunities for us to build relationships with food banks that are going to live past the life of these funds. And we hope that that's going to change the fundamental opportunities that are available to local producers. Over 150 producers have been supplying over 300 partnership agencies, and we're across 79% of the counties in the state right now. You can see that 4.1 out of 7.2. I feel confident that we'll disseminate all 7.2 million. Agriculture lab funding, you can see we're 5 million to 5.1 million, so nearly complete on that project. And then we have some partnership with the University of Tennessee, the Institute of Agriculture, one relative to research and education. They've got 17.1 of that 50 million that's gone out the door. These are construction projects that we think will conclude sometime in the near future. And then also the meat industry workforce training facility with UT. This is really an emphasis on a new and unique opportunity for us as a state to have more research capability and more opportunity for meat processors across the state to engage with the university. You can see that's the lowest of the figures, 933,000 of 12.5 million. But the current construction is taking place right now. And we think those funds will be disseminated pretty quickly. On the last page here, very proud of this page. We've had record rural investment in the Department of Agriculture over the last couple of years, but specifically over the last year or two. Thanks in in full to you all in partnership with the governor, allocating opportunities for us to benefit producers all across the state. The Agriculture Enterprise Fund is a resounding success. When we've had UT take a look for us 2 years ago at what the cost and economic opportunities that were created for every dollar of investment that we put into Ag Enterprise Fund, we saw a return of $17.55 in local economies. That's an amazing statistic. You all have given us the opportunity to have $15 million of recurring funding to come into that fund every year. And it is, you just got to take me at face value. It is changing the face of agriculture and forest products across the state. We would encourage you all, and we're going to be in contact with you all about opportunities for you to visit projects that are being completed in your district, because we want you to help us celebrate the milestones that these producers are able to achieve because of these funds being allocated to them. Tennessee Ag Enhancement Program is probably one of the most successful state programs that we've ever seen to try to bolster and create new opportunity for agriculture. You hardly can talk to a group of producers who will not talk or reference Tennessee Ag Enhancement Program. Again, economic studies have shown us that every dollar of investment has created $6.55 of opportunity in local economies. Many of you all are shaking your head on the committee because you have seen it in real life in your districts. We appreciate the opportunity for you all to have increased our recurring funding to $31.5 million last year. And that is, those resources have been deployed very efficiently. And we appreciate that sustained support. Farmland preservation last year, you all gave us the opportunity to handle $25 million in an effort to preserve farmland all across the state of Tennessee. Happy to report that we have those rules nearly finalized, and we expect that sometime later this year we'll have a program that will be deployed, and we'll be able to take applications for that program, and certainly hope that we can report back more information to you all as we implement that program. Hurricane Helene, obviously not everybody on the committee was impacted by Hurricane Helene in the same way that, say, Representative Hawk's district was. But what we have seen is that there is certainly an opportunity for us to respond to those needs, and we're working with federal partners to try to address that as best we can at this point. And we have been awarded $38 million from USDA, and that is to help do some mitigation of the $1.35 billion worth of economic impact to agriculture alone that was sustained as a result of that storm. So quick rundown of where we're at. And if there's any questions, we'll be happy to answer those for the committee. Appreciate, again, the opportunity to be here with you today.
All right, Commissioner, thank you very much. Thank you for your presentation. Lots of good information there regarding agriculture in our state. Let's begin with our first person on the list. Let's go to Chairman Grills. Chairman Grills, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioner and all your staff for being here. On the first slide, I believe you brought up the wildlife suppression efforts. Can you just tell us how that program is going to work and how it's going to work and harmonize with locals, feds, and however you guys envision that?
I'm going to pass that over to Heather, if you don't mind. She can talk about that wildfire resiliency team pretty effectively.
Yes, sir. Good morning. Thank you for the question. In its basic terminology, this team is going to be responsible for three main areas. So we're going to ask the team to integrate with the structural firefighters to help train them on how to safely deploy to situations that could be wildfires, and when they get there, how they can actually size up the wildfires to provide us more information about what kind of resources we needed to deploy, and basically make sure that, because the way that the wildfire deployment works is the public calls in to 911, there's a fire. And then 911 dispatches both Division of Forestry and structural firefighters. Oftentimes, the structural firefighters get to the scene before us. And so to make sure that this team is going to be helping them train to make sure that they are safe when they do so, they can gather pertinent information that can help us understand what our resources need to be while we are en route, and to be able to take very critical initial wildfire suppression tactics to keep that fire very safe until we get there. So that's number one. Number two is they're going to be working with identified communities to help those communities themselves become more wildfire resilient. So integrating those communities, talking to them about FireWise tactics, helping them get access to grants, for instance, and helping the communities actually get some resiliency in there. And then the third way is that they are going to be integrated into the Division of Forestry's Type 3 incident management team to help support in an all hazards perspective. So the way that we manage all hazards, from floods to the recent ice storm to apparently Hurricane Helene, tornadoes, wildfires, is through that incident management system. And so this team will be integrated with us in that incident management system to be able to be liaisons with those communities. So in times of emergency and in times of urgency, that they can help those communities make critical decisions.
So thank you for that. That's a detailed explanation. I appreciate that. But since 2018, you've had about $8.2 million in that resiliency fund. How do you envision spending those dollars? Are you going to spend those dollars down, or are they in a reserve fund? And then you brought up the fact of working with locals. I mean, obviously the Department of Commerce, they have the grants that they offer to volunteer fire departments. Do you envision, how do you see that working? Or what is the plan for that $8.2 million that's in that fund?
Samantha, may I turn that over to you?
So just to clarify, you're asking for the 8.2 wildfire suppression fund? Yes. Okay. That is actually not housed within the Tennessee Department of Agriculture's reserves. That is held separate in a miscellaneous appropriation. It was originally appropriated a couple years ago when we saw the wildfire outbreaks out east. And so that has just been held almost as if a rainy day fund. So I would have to yield to Department of Finance and Administration on their plans.
That's sufficient. Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind, or you can
Chairman
come back
Grills.
to me a little bit, whatever. I want to go in a different direction there, Commissioner. The TAEP funding that you brought up earlier, obviously the row crop industry has been hit very hard over the past few years. For the last 3 years, we've seen declines. And I'm just curious as to new opportunities that you and your team are looking at to maybe expand that program to be a little more helpful to the row crop sector.
Yeah, so there is a lot of opportunity right now to find new ways to try to benefit and aid the row crop industry here in the state of Tennessee, and really as a nation as a whole. So just so everybody can kind of quantify how big of an issue is this, prior to any subsidies that the USDA supplied to Tennessee producers for the 2025 year production cycle on corn, cotton, soybeans, and wheat, there was an estimated $492 million worth of loss. So just Tennessee and just on 4 crops. And so when you look at that and you say, well, that's an unsustainable amount of loss in that industry. And to that, we say, we agree. There is no silver bullet at this moment. Those, as you well know, as a row crop producer, Chairman Grills, there is no opportunity for us to set the price for commodities. And so the very best thing that we can do in the state is to create new opportunities to use commodities. And so, we're talking about TAEP, and from TAEP, which is focused on individual farming opportunities. So the Grills Farm, the whole family farms, the King Farm, those are focused primarily on single operations. From that program is actually where we developed the idea to be more, to provide more opportunity for someone who, say, wanted to have a commercial grain handling operation, wanted to have, to add additional capacity to a sawmilling operation or a meat processor. So from TAEP, we actually developed this plan for Ag Enterprise Fund, and then that went on to AgTrack. And so we've continued, even within the last couple of days, the Deputy Commissioner and I have been coming up with additional ways to provide more opportunity to the ag and forest products industries across the state. So not to skirt your question specifically about TAEP, but TAEP is limited in its impact on individual operations. Where we see the most opportunity to address some of these more macroeconomic conditions is through our programs that provide higher amounts of opportunity. Currently, AgTrack provides a 25% cost share up to $1 million. So if somebody's instituting a $4 million project, once that project, if they've been awarded, once that project is completed, they can receive $1 million reimbursement. That puts a lot of lenders in a much more comfortable position. It puts a lot of individuals in better position. And those projects are designed to have an impact on multiple producers or multiple multiple landowners. So we're certainly open to continuing down the path of trying to find new opportunities to bring additional value to row crop commodities as well as any other, whether it's forest products or whether it's livestock. You all have been extremely generous to us. I wish that I could say, hey, we're going to institute a plan and within the next 2 weeks, we're going to have solved this $492 million loss. That unfortunately is just not realistic at this point, but we know that with your continued support and with our continued efforts toward trying to diversify marketing opportunities and value addition opportunities, we'll come through this situation.
And I understand the Ag Enterprise Fund that you referenced there. That was one of the next questions I had. I understand how the Department of ECD, they really focus on job creation. And there is an economic impact that kind of gets left in the weeds that the rural communities really get a lot of benefit from. And there's lots of ag opportunities out there for economic benefit, but they don't necessarily get the headlines in the newspapers, if you will. But yet they add a lot of dollars to our communities. And I'm assuming that's what you're trying to. I don't mean to put words in your mouth either, but that's what that economic or the Ag Enterprise Fund is trying to do: support markets. Well, knowing that. The working relationship with the Department of Agriculture and ECD, I see that getting better. And is it your commitment to make sure that we explore those opportunities and hold hands, if you will, with Commissioner McWhorter over there and try to find new markets, whether it's a soybean crushing mill with sustainable aviation fuel, any of the bio markets, anyhow, just whoever wants to take that, and then I'll be done, Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman Grills. Ryan King, Deputy Commissioner. And I'll just say, yes, it's like you're looking into our department, Chairman. We are working as we speak to try to mimic and not reinvent the wheel. ECD is a world-class department, and we recognize that. And that even comes back, Chairman Hawk, I think you were nodding your head earlier when we were talking about getting in your districts to recognize these projects. So it even gets down that granular. And we're looking at every single piece that they do. They've been in this business a long time, but not specific necessarily to agricultural businesses. So we don't want to reinvent the wheel. In some cases, we want to retrofit it even better for our industries.
I'll let someone else.
All right,
Thank you, Chairman.
All right,
Chairman,
thank you.
can I make one
Yes,
comment?
please, Commissioner.
This really goes back to the original comments relative to the wildfire resiliency team. I tell Heather quite often she's never going to get credit for houses that don't burn down. But with this figure right here of 1.3 million, and we should never lose sight, I know that you all don't, that is a lot of money. We recognize that. But what we have estimated is that if we can save 3 or 4 homes average value in the state of Tennessee from burning down relative to a wildfire, we will have saved more than that amount right there. And again, we are seeing that wildfire is more of a realistic threat for us on a daily basis. And it's something that we need to really get in the business of trying to mitigate. And that's what this team will do.
All right, thank you. I want to touch on reversions right quick. The department reverted to my numbers, 20.3 million in fiscal year 25. That's actually the most that's been reverted. There was 8 million reverted back in fiscal year 23. And if I dig a little bit deeper into that, 17.9 million of that 20.3 was derived from operational savings. And just could you provide a little more detail on that, kind of what these, just identify some of these operational savings?
I'm going to turn that over to Samantha.
Okay.
Yes, happy to dig into that. So you are correct. This past year was much higher than we typically do. Our reversion target's 900,000. And as you said, it was close to 17 million. 2 components kind of play into that. The first is we had received appropriation to purchase Ames within our division of forestry. We had received state dollars that we knew were going to revert once we were reimbursed by our federal partners through the Forestry Legacy Program. So that makes up one portion. The other portion was we did work with the Department of Finance and Administration to identify some carry forwards that had either remained unchanged the last couple of years, and we did have 5 of our carry forwards that are playing into that number as well.
Okay, so would you categorize these as one-time savings? I mean, I know obviously talking about the purchase for Ames, but what about the other moving forward? Could there be a trend here that we might see?
I'm happy to speak to that. No, I don't believe this is a trend. Like I said, I should have mentioned the numbers. Ames was 13.5 million of that, and the carry forwards were 2.3 million. So when you take those numbers out, we weren't that much higher than our $900,000 target.
Got me excited there for just a second. Thank you.
Well, and I will say, one of those carry forwards that we actually had allocated toward a project that unfortunately, that money was requested back. And hey, we're team players. So if that's the best utilization, that's where the money needs to go.
Thank you, Commissioner, for that. All right, let's move ahead to Chairman Williams. Chairman Williams, you are recognized.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioners. Good to see you. You've added a few children and some gray hair since you and I came into the legislature together, but it's always good to see you and excited about what's going on in your family. And if I lose a little bit here, I know there's nothing you'd like talking with Chairman Faison more about hemp and marijuana, but I do have I do have a question. Obviously, under Public Chapter 526 last year, we moved these legacy. The attempt was to move these legacy license from Department of Ag to the Alcohol Beverage Commission. Could you give us an update on where we are there? How many still reside with you, and what you expect with those that still remain with you in the coming months?
So we had a conversation with our legal team prior to coming in today. So the constant theme with our hemp program is that there's constantly pending litigation. And so we find ourselves in that situation even as of now relative to this particular program. And so probably the best way to surmise it is that the General Assembly did give us a dictate to transfer the hemp program from the department to ABC, and we're currently in the process of making that transition. That's probably about the most I need to say.
Okay. So I was unaware of the number of cases that were out there. So I'll just talk with you offline about what the impact may be there as it relates to that. But is it your expectation that the hope is still to try to maintain the goal by moving all these legacy programs over?
So that is the direction of the General Assembly, and we're trying to facilitate the direction given to us by the General Assembly.
Okay. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Next on the list, Representative Parkinson, you're recognized.
Thank you, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I'm going to be nice, Commissioner. So just so you know, but I do want to commend you on your work. Honestly, I truly appreciate everything that you're doing. I think you're built for this, literally and figuratively. But I do want to say this. I think you were being a bit conservative in saying that the $1.3 million for wildfire support and assistance is actually not enough money. You know, after 25 years of being in the fire service, that's the one thing we hated the most, man. And you know, and we had, you know, not quite forest fires, but brush fires that threatened homes, and some that ate up some of the homes, and that's the worst thing you can do is to chase a brush fire, and the wind is deciding which way it wants to blow at any given moment. And almost annually, and you probably know this, there is a burn ban in Shelby County, you know, because of the conditions, you know, that exist that could, you know, further exacerbate the possibilities of these types of fires. So I you know, I know you're being kind. I know you before, you know, finance and, you know, but, you know, there could be more added to that number, because you think about it, you know, when these things happen, of course, you know, there's you know, the insurance companies start, you know, kind of moving around and, you know, looking at things differently for these homeowners. It ends up costing them more money. Their fire rating changes, and especially when you think about in rural communities where the fire hydrants are not as close, right, to some of these homes. You know, there's a big challenge there. And so I hope that you're, and I'm sure you're working with our state fire marshal and you know, the team over there, where they're at, Bell Buckle, Tennessee somewhere. Yeah, and you know, those guys and those individuals, and you know, see what else we can do to help to, shore this up and enhance what you're doing. But I thank you for your leadership on this and seeing the need, and thank you for all that you're doing also, because this is something that is definitely needed from the state of Tennessee. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next on the list, Representative Reeves, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wanted to take a second before my question and just briefly recognize my friend, my good friend, Deputy Commissioner Ryan King. Williamson County is very proud to have you in this important leadership role, and I just want to thank you for stepping up to do it. And I'll leave that there. I also want to commend Cultivate. Williamson County is also very proud that Joey Langford has built that program up. It grows food and it grows people. And they've done a lot of different things, from supporting community gardens to supplying food to food deserts and other things. So my question is, and I know you've touched on this already, Commissioner, but just can you help us unpack the funds that you've asked for that group, and how that will continue to grow that group and what impact that'll have?
Yes, so appreciate the question, and the opportunity to support Cultivate has been something that over the years we have seen it. And as many of you all know, everybody can have a good idea. It's just, can you maintain a good idea? Can you maintain the excitement for the idea? And can you continue the mission with a focus toward what you originally set out to complete? And thankfully, Joey is uniquely qualified in doing those things, performing those tasks. And so what we've seen from the beginning is that his focus on trying to, again, as you said, grow people and grow food and grow people, is that he's having more folks that want to come into this program. They're wanting to expand their footprint opportunity. And that's not only on our campus, but that's also off campus. And so the idea of us sort of shepherding this request on his behalf has given us an opportunity to continue to sort of put more wind in the sail so that more folks can come through this program and be benefited by it. There may be some other details. I don't know if anybody wants to specifically give any details, but Samantha, if there are any additional details, feel free to add those in.
The only other details to add is, just as Commissioner was saying, when it comes to expanding the program, it is across the state. Joey does have the intent to hopefully get it into everyone's 95 counties that are out there. We've had requests, and again, to echo back to Deputy Commissioner, we don't want to reinvent the wheel. If we already have a successful program that not only partners with Department of Agriculture, but also Children's Services, let's share those resources and grow the program.
Representative Reeves.
Well, thank you very much. I fully support the efforts of that organization, and I'm excited to see what they'll do. Thank you very much.
Have you visited campus? Have you visited the operation?
I haven't yet, but I have heard Joey speak about all their efforts and present a slideshow, and I'm very impressed by all of it.
Well, if anybody would like to have a tour, we are more than happy to host you on campus to see those operations and meet some of the folks that have gone through that program that we would consider to be real success stories.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you. Next on the list, Chairman Halsey, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for being here. This is, I'm just going to spend just a minute, not long. This is really kind of a personal question rather than a budget question. I always admired you when you were on the House floor, things you argued for and how you argued for them. And I even stood with you when you protested the movement of running a red light out of the criminal side and sticking it on the civil side. I was right there with you. Agreed with your argument. I was really impressed one time. You came in front of a committee I was on. It's on the bill. You came in front of a committee that I was on, and you had a bill that said required executive branches of government to come up with a plan on what you would have to do if your budget was reduced 10%, 20%, and 30%. I can still remember that, and I thought that's really forward thinking. And we need to do that since about 40% of our budget here comes from federal dollars. I'm just asking a personal question now that you've shifted ends of the spectrum. Does that process still go through your mind?
So that process not only goes through my mind, but we actually conduct that process every 2 years. And it is more necessary than ever, in my opinion. I'm not here to weigh in, obviously, or give my personal opinion, but that is the law, and we do think that it's important. And we saw this, even the request relative to this wildfire resiliency team. It was actually quite a bit larger. And at the time that we made the request, Heather can give more details if you'd like, but the federal government had given indication that they were going to reduce all of the funding in that particular program that would pay toward these 10 part-time positions that we currently have, fill in these services. And so in essence, we are in a period of time where the federal government has signaled that there is less of an appetite to continue sending money for certain types of programming. And I do think it's important for us as a state to remain in a position of being able to provide services in the absence of federal funding. So I think there's still a need for us to continue down that path.
All right. Thank you. Representative Chisholm, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's good to see you. So I got a question about forestry. So as things have gone, so many things have gone from paper to digital. How has the forestry industry been hit by that, and what supports or plans do we have to keep that industry going? Is there another way to use forest land or?
So I appreciate the question, Representative, and we actually have some experts that could really tell the tale out here with us today. But as it relates to representatives from the department, I'm going to start, and then I'm going to pass the torch over to Heather. We are growing an unbelievable amount of fiber right now in the state of Tennessee because we have lower value in the market for not only hardwood but also pulpwood, softwoods than we've had in quite some time. And as you've astutely noted, so as we transition further and further away from the use of paper in our daily lives, we have seen mill closures all across the Southeast, really all across the nation in response to that. Thankfully, we had the opportunity to have a meeting with Tennessee Forestry Association last night. They had a reception, and we're able to talk to several of the members of that industry. And thankfully, we have PCA here in the state of Tennessee, and it looks like they're actually kind of going against the grain as it relates to paper production. It looks like there's more investment in local pulp mills, and that's a good sign for us. As those other contributors into the pulp and paper market do go away, that does provide opportunity for the current needs in the market. And we hope that that is a sustainable option for providers like PCA into the future, which is a very valuable value addition for forest products producers here in the state of Tennessee. Generally speaking, the value of pulp and lumber in general is lower than what we would like to see it at. We've made several efforts. I have personally been to India, Vietnam, Morocco, Mexico, other countries around the world within the last few years trying to market the very valuable grade lumber that we can produce here in the state of Tennessee. We're a unique producer of hardwood, really recognized around not just the United States, but around the globe. And so we're doing all that we can to add value to timber and to lumber and to paper and to all of the natural fibers. But one of the things that I would certainly encourage members of the committee to be thinking about is, this is a pet peeve of mine. I talk about it a lot. We've plastified our world. We make everything out of plastic and other substances. We should, and I would hope that the General Assembly would take an initiative to lead a revolution that would actually implore folks in Tennessee to utilize more natural fibers. So whether that's wool, cotton, whether that is wood products, there's a lot of opportunities for us out there right now to increase the value of lumber, cotton, and other basic fibers if we will just reintroduce and reinvigorate the desire for those things to be included in our daily lives. One other thing that I'll touch on is that we can actually make sustainable aviation fuel out of wood fiber. And so this is one of the things that we're looking into the future, recognizing, and Heather can give the details about the amount of forest products and fiber that we're producing right now. We're producing a lot more fiber in the woods than we're taking out of the woods. And what we're looking for is how do we gain the most amount of value from that fiber? Our silvicultural methods here in the state of Tennessee are relatively unique. There's lots of land across the state of Tennessee that just needs to be in woods because it really doesn't have the opportunity to provide any other significant benefit into the market. And so that said, what we'd like to do is for the General Assembly to work with us similarly to what Deputy Commissioner was saying relative to our work with ECD is we're trying to attract some of these huge pulp and wood fiber processors that can take that material off the landscape and not use it to make paper, but take it and use it to make fuel. And as outlandish as that may seem, cellulosic technology that allows us to kind of upgrade that fiber to an ethanol and then further upgrade that to other types of fuels is realistic. And so we're working toward that goal each and every day. But I'll pass it off to our state forester to give a couple more comments on your question.
And I don't mean to interrupt. Let me just say this. I've got several more people on the list. So if you could just answer the question and let's move on.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think the only thing I wanted to add was that we've lost about 2 to 3 million green tons of processing capacity in Tennessee, but Tennessee is in a situation much like other southern states. To your point, is that the culture and society have gone more digital and less paper, but we're also seeing an increase in our packaging usage. So everybody's ordering stuff from Amazon, for instance, right? So all that cardboard is made from the same fiber that we're talking about. So there is just a shift in different products that are made with that fiber. However, the commissioner is absolutely correct. We still need a very strong outlet for those low quality hardwood stems in our forest, because when we can manage for that low quality stem, that creates opportunities for the high quality stem to grow even better, to keep our third in the nation rank for hardwood lumber.
Representative Chisholm.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you. Chairman Crawford, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And most all my questions have been answered except for one, and you can provide the answer to my office or to the chairman to pass on. But with the foreign trade zones that we're seeing here in Tennessee and the international airports and those type things, does the Department of Agriculture supply agents to protect us from malicious seeds and some of those things that's coming into the United States that could hurt our crops here in Tennessee?
So although a job mostly conducted by the USDA, that we do have interaction and a lot of our actions, and I'll turn this over to Dr. Travis to give more clarity, but a lot of our action in those types of zones are giving certification to allow product to leave. And so we do have to provide phytosanitary, documentation for things that are exiting. And then we're also part of the process to ensure that we're, keeping, as we like to call it, bugs and crud out of Tennessee. But I'll turn it over to Dr. Travis to give a little bit more context to your question. But thank you.
Yes, thank you for the question. So while we are not there at the ports of entry, we do continuously surveil for things like foreign animal disease in the case of animal health, for incursions of invasive pest plants. It's not unknown that there was a time where a lot of seeds that weren't requested by folks were being shipped into Tennessee. So we really worked with UT and some of our other partners to get the word out about what to do if you happen to receive seeds in the mail that you did not purchase yourself, and how to handle those to ensure that there weren't any invasive pests or plants being brought into the state.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Chairman Hill, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman. Commissioner and Deputy Commissioner, great to see y'all. When you handed out the paper to start with, and you hit on this at the very beginning, Winter Storm Fern. So this was my first question to you. So when you look at that, how did that impact your department financially? What, we talk about TDOT, we talk about, these other departments that had money set aside for those. So how did that impact you, and where did those dollars come from that it took you to address that?
So it was significant, and obviously we're looking for reimbursement from FEMA. But to answer your question a little more eloquently, I'm going to turn it over to Samantha and to Heather to give their responses on that.
Okay, thank you for that question. So we currently have bore that cost in our current operations, and that is something that's very unique and challenging to us because, for instance, the Hurricane Helene, we responded with dozens and dozens of resources for weeks, and we still have not received reimbursement for it. So it is problematic how long that kind of reimbursement process takes. So we do work hand in hand with FNA to keep them apprised about how much our operational budget is being impacted by holding on to those bills. And it has happened in certain times where we have had to actually shut down other operations within the Division of Forestry because we did not have the money to continue working while we waited for the reimbursement. So it is a challenge for us, but I'm very thankful that we have Samantha and some really good relationships with FNA that they understand in our world, our emergency response world. You don't care about you have a finance team that's managing those dollars and watching those dollars, but you have to be able to respond. And so for Winter Storm Fern, for instance, we had 228 resources deployed over 14 days. So that was easily over $1 million in 14 days. And all we did was I just made sure Samantha was aware that, hey, this is going to have a big impact, especially as we start to close the budget towards the end of the fiscal year.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And if I can, Chairman, a couple of other things real quick. So on the rural investment there on the slide 6, the farmland preservation, the $25 million investment that this body made along with the governor. It's going to launch later on this year. So leading up to that, has there been a lot of interest? Has your department had a lot of communication, people looking into it and seeing? And I guess that leads into the part, is 25 million even going to touch, what is it going to look like?
So this is an issue that has had a lot of interest, and I can say that because the process of creating our rules and drafting our rules, we made this a very open, very transparent process and invited partners from all different types of mentalities relative to land preservation. And so we had pretty much every group that we could think of that would have interest in this particular topic at the table in the drafting process. So what we've yet to see is how much that will transfer over to the folks who actually apply for these particular funds. And we're still in the process of trying to finalize it. Even yesterday in a one-on-one meeting with Governor Lee, I posed a couple of questions that we're still trying to work through so that we have a 100% complete bow tied on this process before we release it. But $25 million, although a pretty significant amount of money, as you're well aware, really will probably go pretty fast in this process. And so what we're trying to do is figure out, what is our priority with the dissemination of these dollars? Is it to preserve as many acres as possible or to benefit, folks that are currently and actively producing? They're farming right now, and they need this money to help them prolong the opportunity to keep their operation in play. And so yet to be determined, but I think sometime by this summer, we're going to have a very good handle on what the response will be once these funds are made available by application.
Okay. And last thing, kind of tie this all together. So you talk about the ag enhancement, love it, very appreciative of it. But so there was some confusion when it came to, I'll just say this, herd bulls, for instance. Mm-hmm. The dollar amount, some thought it was going to be 2,000 and it ended up being 3,000.
Correct.
And I had several people that said, man, I wish I could change my application now because I was at some sales in December and they were like, man, I would have put that towards that had I known, so that, and then the second part, when we talk about the savings and what we've done for farmers, and I know this is the Department of Revenue, but I don't know if y'all have had communication. What's the impact of the sales tax exemption for agriculture on that side too.
So I clearly remember when Chairman Halford had that particular bill here in the House, and I remember seeing the fiscal note on it and thinking, I don't think that's right. I think it's going to be a lot more impactful. Just from as a farmer myself, that ability to not have to pay sales tax is very important. I don't know what the net amount is across the state, but I think what we have, and I think the signals at the General Assembly, and especially this committee and the governor have signaled, is that agriculture is welcome in the state of Tennessee. And so whether it is, recension of sales tax on certain items, or whether it is programs that do a very good job of trying to get in at the farm level and incentivize producers to remain in productivity, I think you all are sending all the right signals. We're trying to handle those program dollars the best way that we possibly can at the highest level of fidelity and also the highest level of impact. And so we think it's a great partnership. To further sort of answer your question is, what is the cumulative impact of this? We've actually just recently initiated a study with the University of Tennessee to help us recognize over the 25-year span of the Tennessee Ag Enhancement Program, which has contributed and cost shared on over $333 million with producers all across the state, what has been the most tangible impacts. And so hopefully next year we'll be able to bring the results of that survey back to you and answer your questions a little more intelligently.
All right. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you. Chairman Vaughn, you're recognized.
To preserve time, Mr. Chairman, I'll ask him something outside in the corridor. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Representative Shaw, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To preserve time, I'll ask outside the courtroom.
Well, bless you too. Representative Sparks, no pressure.
A lot of pressure. Thank you, Andy. We came in together. I know you're one of the most passionate people in farming. I want to go back to Cultivate with Joey Langford. We incarcerate a lot of men and women in this state, and it's growing. I'm hearing talk we're going to have to build a new state prison. A lot of money, man. A lot of money. Commissioner didn't even know what the answer was on that. But I want to give a quote from Joey I thought was really cool. Representative Shaw he says, I didn't go looking for opioid and meth addicts. That's who God sent me. And I'm curious how many lives Joey and his program has turned around. I don't know, 50, 100, I don't know. But could that program be multiplied exponentially to reach the next generation of folks working in ag and save the taxpayers money?
Thank you, Representative Sparks. So this is the 10-year anniversary of the Cultivate program, and you mentioned the faith component of that, and that's absolutely woven into every piece of it. And I might add, it's important to us at the Department of Agriculture too. So Joey is growing every day the men and women who are going to carry that program on into the future. In fact, Adam, one of the young men that's been through that program, has taken over operations there at the Ellington Ag Campus. So I hope that answers your question, something we're extraordinarily proud of.
Yes, Chairman, good. Let's do a tour, May, June. Let's just go ahead and do it. Just plan on it and getting all these folks out there. Shout out to the former Commissioner Larry Maxwell, who's babysitted my sons. Now he babysits my grandkids at Parkway Baptist Church. Thank you, Andy.
All right. Thank you. Members, I have no one else on the list. Commissioner, thank you. Thank you for being here. It's always good to see you, and you have assembled a fantastic team. So thank you for what you're doing. All right. We will now ask the Department of Safety and Homeland Security to please make their way to the presentation tables. Commissioner, welcome. Colonel, welcome. Members, just a reminder, as our presenters get situated, all the documentation they are on the website, so they're on the dashboard that you can access them. Chairman Hall.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As our folks from Department of Safety and Homeland Security have walked in the room, they're hearing cat calls and being yelled at and spoken to in a very vain way from folks in the audience. I will remind folks that this is a House of Representatives budget hearing, and they're to act accordingly. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members.
Thank you, Chairman. All right, just a reminder that we will control the microphones. And if you are ready to speak, the light will come on. And Commissioner, thank you for being here. Please introduce yourself and who you have with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Hicks.
Let
Good
me
morning.
stop
Good
and just
afternoon.
remind everybody, sorry, Commissioner, we want everybody here. We want you here. We even want your signs here. But if you would, just for courtesy of the person behind you, just make sure you don't hold it up too high so the person behind you can't see, if you could. And we just want to make sure that everybody can hear our presenters. Again, we want everybody here. We thank you for being here, as a matter of fact. So let's go ahead and get started. Commissioner, take it away. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Committee, thank you for the opportunity to come and show you our needs for the next year. I have Assistant Commissioner Russell Shoup over our Driver Services Division, Colonel Matt Perry with the Tennessee Highway Patrol, Graham Tudor, our Legislative Director, Sonia Hadley, our Budget Director, and Assistant Commissioner Greg Mays with Homeland Security. I'll try to be respectful by the rules of 5 minutes to do our presentation, and I'm going to go straight into it if you don't mind. Number one is the thing you see every year on the budget request, statutory salary step raises for $3,297,500. Number two is a salary survey that's done every year to try to keep the officers competitive with others. We noticed that we were behind some of the local agencies and some of the state agencies that meet the state lines of Tennessee, and that amount is $19,749,500. We're asking for 50 trooper positions. Back when the governor started his term, he wanted to make sure that Memphis had the proper number of troopers in the Memphis area. He asked us at that time, I think we had allotted 900 and something troopers across the state allotment for positions. He asked us where we needed to be at that time. We told him 1,300, and this 50 will get us to that 1,300 number that he had asked about. Number four is administrative legislation about insurance minimum requirements. It's a driver's license cleanup bill from last year. It's $38,000. Number five, additional driver service staff at current locations, 34 positions. We're needing positions to attempt to direct traffic in the DL centers to even cut down the wait lines more than we have already. Plus, in some of the larger transactional areas, they need a few more positions in some of those centers that have large transactions, and we're trying to give them some assistance also. And then number six is the one you see mostly every year. It's statewide radio system maintenance. This is the contract maintenance for the upkeep of the system, the cybersecurity of the system, and it's a contract price of $1,500,000, making our request $44,903,800. I will quickly tell you that our 23-24 budget was a little less than $135 million when we added a whole lot of troopers at that time. Our 24-25 was $55 million, and we're now below that, another $11 million down this year from where we were last time. So we'll entertain any questions.
All right, Commissioner, thank you very much. Thank you for your opening statements and your presentation. We do have several folks on the list. Let's begin with Chairman Crawford. Chairman Crawford, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for being with us today, Commissioner, and your team. I want to talk a little bit about the salary survey. As you mentioned earlier there, that a lot of the salary studies we had seen was based off of neighboring states around us. the 10% market adjustment that would put Tennessee troopers' salaries ahead of some of those states, what positions would we receive in market adjustments and for this funding?
Colonel Perry is going to answer you.
Thank you, Chairman. Colonel Matt Perry, Tennessee Highway Patrol. Thank you for the question. So the salary survey, I know you know this, and I'm just going to repeat it for the group. The salary survey is intended to keep troopers in the middle of the pay scale for the states that touch Tennessee. It has nothing to do with law enforcement agencies inside of Tennessee. And so in keeping us in the middle for really since the survey came into effect, it slowly, we became about the 35th or 30th. I don't know the exact number. I could have told you a couple of years ago. It had us about that inside of Tennessee, and we were no longer hiring. I started a sheriff's department and worked my way to the highway patrol, like a lot of members. So we stopped getting lateral hires. We started having people leaving our department, and so asking for this adjustment is going to make us really the highest paid agency in Tennessee and close and outside of Tennessee that touches. And I'll say this, and I know you know this, but troopers are the only statewide agency, Highway Patrol, that gets sent to hurricane relief in East Tennessee, gets sent all over the state, whether it's tornado response, hurricanes, floodings in Humphrey County, obviously ice storms. We send troopers everywhere. When we're doing a large operation in Shelby County, we have troopers rotating in from every corner of the state as part of the Memphis Safe Task Force. And that's what we expect, what we demand of troopers. We had a graduation today where I said similar things. Commissioner and certainly Governor Lee said, we expect troopers to respond when things are at their worst. And unfortunately, it seems like there is a natural disaster event happening. I mean, I don't want to say every month, but it kind of feels like it. And so, and we pick up and we go, every man and woman of our department.
Chairman Crawford, you recognize.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess my next question would be, with us moving forward and everything that's going on in the department, are we starting to see problems with hiring troopers and retaining them?
Thank you for the question. So right this minute, I would say no. We have done a really great job of hiring since you first blessed us with new positions, a handful of years ago. And we changed the way we hired. We hired one cadet class a year. We might have 1,000 people apply. We might start 100, graduate 50. Well, now we hire every quarter. We have 1,000 apply. We offer a job to 100 or so, and we graduate 50 4 times a year. So we are doing the things to hire, to fill the position, the new positions you're giving us, and we are. And I'm going to jump ahead because I'm sure you're getting into some of our vacancies because I asked the same question. So we currently we actually are graduating. So I'm going to throw my numbers off between 2 different days. We graduated 17 lateral police officers today. There's 30 some odd left in the academy. But there's those 50 that I just said of those 2 groups aren't assigned to a vacant position number on the road, or weren't when the numbers are pulled, because they are overlapped inside of our training division. We have a cadet school that started this past Sunday. There's 51 or 5 people in that class. They're not assigned to a position. So if you're showing 125 positions, I just articulated about 100 of them that are filled. They're just not in that position number yet, but they will be getting filled. So, and we just offered 110 people a job for a cadet school that starts in 2.5 months. And by my numbers, we're going to be over full. Now we know we've got retirements coming. I've got a retirement today when I leave here. So attrition's happening. We're in a good position, but we weren't in a good position at the start of all this because we fell behind on on our pay. Us being near the top and having expectations for troopers to answer the call and to go anywhere you're asked, having our pay at near the top, it keeps us in a good position, hiring and certainly retaining.
And one more question, Mr. Chairman. With that 110 officers you're talking about, what will be like the starting pay for these officers compared to our local law enforcement's?
If approved in this budget, the starting pay will be right at about 75,000. And that doesn't get us quite above. There's a few agencies that have incentives for college degrees and certain things and certain bonuses. If you've been a police officer, we're treating everybody the same. They get a certain amount of training from us. Lateral police officers already have some experience, but they'll still start at the same level as, but about 75,000. Currently it's 68.
Well, thank you guys for what you do. Thank y'all. Thanks, Mr.
Thank
Chairman.
you.
Thank you, Chairman. Next on the list, Chairman Hulsey, you're recognized.
Thank you, gentlemen, for being here. You talked about ice storms. There's lots of folks holding up signs. They don't want us funding ice storms, so I just wanted to share that with you. According to the last thing that safety put out, you're graduating off 88, I think, coming up for a total of 1,340. What's safety department's ultimate goal for 1,340 troopers?
Yes, our goal ultimately is to really have 1,300 road working members of our department. So we've got a couple of investigative and administrative divisions that encompass some of those numbers, but the goal is to have 1,300 people in this uniform working the road on a daily basis. Obviously, they have days off, but on a daily basis, that's the number that we think, and it shows. I'm going to take a little liberty, if I can, to talk about our reduction in fatal crashes. I mean, the proof is in the pudding. I mean, there is a almost 1-for-1 reduction in fatal crashes for new troopers that you have given us in the budget, and it's that simple. There's some technology that helps and things you can do, but troopers out there, blue lights on, stopping cars, and is the number one. I mean, we all see it. We say, oh man, there's, when you are driving to and from Nashville, troopers out there stopping cars. I got to slow down. I got to make sure I'm doing things the right way. I mean, it has that effect, whether we stop you or not. So we know just being seen controls and manages traffic. And it's, like I said, the proof is in the pudding. We're down 143 fatals from last year and 122 we were down the year before that. So, it's 260 plus over a 2-year period, which is, I mean, we were at one point, we thought we might go below 1,000 fatal crashes, and that hasn't happened in, a decade and a half or longer. And we didn't get there. We were at 1,060, still too many, but we're making a difference. And I think we can make more. I mean, in a time where vehicle miles traveled, tourism to Tennessee, people coming through Tennessee is going up every year, population every year. We're driving fatal crashes and serious injury crashes down.
Thank you, Chairman Hulsey. Representative Capley, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Mr. Commissioner, team. Thank you all for what you do. Let's talk about the driver centers real quick. We talked about 34 positions and how they're going to be distributed. If you could talk about how they're going to be distributed across the state, what's going to get priority. Just kind of go over that a little bit for me to start us off, please, sir.
I will start and then I'll let Assistant Commissioner Shoup finish up if you don't mind. We've noticed that people come into our centers, they don't know which direction they need to go first. They don't know whether to use a kiosk that we've provided. It's a quick way of renewing a license and getting out the door, whether they need to go to a counter. They don't know really what they want as far as a real ID or a regular license. So we're wanting in some of those centers to try to have an individual at the door that can meet them and answer those questions and direct them into the right direction. We've also seen that in our higher transactional area centers, we just don't have enough staff to take care of the volume that they get. And we're trying to disseminate the rest of the positions to those higher transactional offices. And if you don't mind, I'll let Commissioner Shoup additional.
So thank you for the question. Yeah, so our priority will be to put these positions in our facilities that have higher transactions and some of our higher wait times to reduce those wait times is going to be the priority. And as the commissioner said, also to make sure that we have that frontline attendant to help direct traffic, and that helps move the wait time or the lines a lot quicker and more efficiently.
Representative Kaplan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm assuming those are in the big four. Is that fair to say?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
So most of them are related to the high, the urban areas, but there are centers that are in counties that are adjacent to those areas that also get a lot of volume too. So.
All right.
Representative Kaplan.
Mr. Chairman, I think that's, we talked about, I think that's about it. That's all I've got. Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you. Chairman Hill, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner, good to see you. Always good to see you, talk to you, and appreciate what you've done for our state, and just an awesome guy.
Thank you.
Talking about the efficiencies. It's my first question here. The proposed budget includes a recurring reduction in funding to safety of $1.4 million for highway patrol efficiencies. Can you provide details on this reduction, and what exactly were the efficiencies that led to the ability to reduce the funding?
If you don't mind, I'm going to let our budget director, Sonia Hadley, address that. She has those exact figures.
Sonia Hadley, Budget Director. So for the Tennessee Highway Patrol, we recognized that there was efficiencies in communications. There were costs related to reducing billings related to IT projects, maybe phone billing, some of that related to like $350,000 in cell phone usage as well. Reduced some equipment as well, about $528,000 that we noticed that we didn't need to purchase anymore, as well as some contracted services that we no longer utilize.
Okay, thank you. Now, I've got two other questions, kind of shifting gears just a little bit. On the SRO program, that was something that was big to me the first year we come in, and I'm thankful that we got that done. So how much or how many are still not, how many schools do we still not have across the state that have chose not to participate in that grant program?
I can tell you that as we did a survey yesterday, because we were asking the Senate of money that came back, a reversion of why it came back in such a large number. And we tried to check to see, it was all SRO money. And we were trying to find out where the majority of that money was coming from. Shelby County had 275 schools on the Department of Education directory. They only had 30 schools that were receiving SRO funds. So 245 schools were not receiving any SRO funding from that. So there was $18,375,000 in potential funding that they did not utilize that went back to the state coffer. Davidson County had 183 schools for $13,725,000. They are only in 56 schools. So $4,200,000 was reallocated back to the state. There were 127 schools not receiving any funding in Davidson County for a total funding of $9.5 million that they did not utilize. Knox County, they had 98 schools on the directory. They had 37 that were receiving SRO grant funds. 61 were not. There was $4,575,000 in potential funding that was not utilized. I do understand that Knox County uses what they call SSOs. It's a security officer in the schools that are not necessarily post-certified officers, but they do school security, and they've chosen to take that path rather than the SROs. Hamilton County had 81 schools on the directory. They're using 43 schools. The 38 schools that are not using that is $2,850,000 in potential funding that was not utilized. And Sullivan County had 37 schools. 20 of those are not using it, or 20 are using it. 17 are not using it for a potential return of $1,275,000. So the most of our reversion, and I've forgotten the total amount, but the biggest majority of that is the SRO grant that the schools, the education departments in those communities are not utilizing.
Chairman Hale.
Thank you, Chairman. I hate to see that, but my last question, to move on to other people. When we think about that and think about safety, I was looking there at the slide, number 5, the houses of worship grant. What was kind of, I guess, bothering to me is to see, and we realize churches have become a huge target. We went last year in FY26, 1.25 million funded, 32 awarded, but there was 84 applicants, which would have been 3.8. So we were well under. So do you feel like that this body, I mean, we've got money there that's getting, that school systems are choosing not to use, that there's definitely a need that we need to look at increasing that to be able to make sure that we're protecting those houses of worship?
Yes, sir. Every year, the houses of worship request has gone up expeditiously. And what we ended up having to do this last year is evaluate the request and try to look at the seriousness of the request and what they needed and try to be as fair to each and every one of them as we possibly could. We were only able, as you said, to actually award 32 out of the 84 with the awards, but we tried to be as fair and as best use of state funds that we possibly could.
Well, thank you. And I just want to again say thank you for trying to keep our roads safe, but then also a lot of our buildings and stuff across the state, our schools, our houses of worship. So thank you for what you're doing and appreciate you. Thank you, Chairman.
All right, thank you. Representative Freeman, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've got a few questions, if you'll let me just go back and forth.
Yes, that'll be fine.
Great, thank you. So last May, ICE officials in coordination with the Highway Patrol broadly targeted Nashville's Latino population through a 6-night frenzy. More than 600 traffic stops in the city's immigrant-rich neighborhoods. There were videos published on the banner where you see officers marking people with Sharpies, tagging them for their hunting game. Do you think this is appropriate as a leader of the department, Commissioner, for that to have happened? Are you concerned how this kind of behavior tarnishes the image of the Highway Patrol?
Thank you, Representative Freeman. I will start and then I'll let Colonel Perry finish. I don't think it's appropriate for what happened. And I've tried to check into it and we're still reviewing. We're under litigation, so I'm somewhat limited on what I can say because of the lawsuits have been filed. But I can tell you that I have not had any communication to me from our staff yet that any of that marking was a trooper that did that. We don't have control over other agencies, but we limited the amount of participation that we did after that. That's the only operation we've done. And I'll let Colonel Perry expand on it what he can.
Colonel Perry.
Thank you, Chairman. I appreciate the question, and I said it yesterday, and I'll say it again. We are under litigation, but we want to be open. We don't have anything to hide. We are reviewing all of the footage. This was like you said, a 6-night operation with 9 troopers making probable cause traffic stops on major thoroughfares in Nashville that have, fatal crashes and things like that. So that's where we worked. And we were asked to work in Davidson County, so I'm not, but we've done one and only operation, and it was last May. We are finding out things. If troopers did or said anything inappropriate, we'll handle it like we do every other. We investigate troopers, we review video, we receive complaints, and we investigate them. But yesterday was the first I had heard about these markings and some of that. We don't condone that. Troopers did not do that. And if something comes out along the lines that they did, then we will handle it accordingly.
Yeah, I would just encourage you, thank you, to publicly condemn those actions then. I mean, I understand you may be under litigation, but this is not what you want the Highway Patrol to be seen as, and it's certainly not what I think the people of Tennessee want to see a major department to do. And so I just ask that you condemn it. The banner video shows the troopers working directly with ICE, in many cases targeting drivers based on the color of their skin. The video shows officers asking drivers about where they were born, noting accents, seemingly much more interested in investigating their immigration status than enforcing traffic laws. And again, I'm concerned that this is not only illegal, but we've got other jobs for the THP to be doing and not being drug out to do that. Can you address that?
Yes, sir, I can. Like I said, I appreciate the question, and there are a lot of things that troopers do and are doing every day, but we were doing it that night too. So we were making probable cause traffic stops, not going and picking people. We worked at night. After 9 o'clock shifts, starting at 9 and 10 o'clock, working till early morning hours. So I reject anyone that says we were doing anything different than stopping cars for state law violations. Now, after that, if we determine other things, whether it's impairment or drug possession or the violation of the crime, the traffic law itself, then ICE was with us in the car. And there are times every day a trooper walks up and somebody doesn't have an ID and we ask questions about that. We ask all kinds of questions, no matter what their skin color is or anything like that. We have to find out who they are to try to dig deeper. So I just want to keep saying we made probable cause traffic violations. If we dealt with that, then there was an ICE person that handled the next part of that.
And I appreciate that, and I believe that that's what you believe. But if you watch the video, there's 60 hours, and it's very clear that was not the policy, at least that you're putting forth, that they were operating under. And again, even if it was ICE officials, I would hope that you would empower your troopers to step up and say something and say, this is not an operation that I want to be a part of. Have a couple more questions here. How are decisions being made about whether, when, and how to collaborate with federal immigration partners?
Well, so after that operation, they've reached out periodically for us to take part in certain things, and we haven't. We've just done our normal job every day, and that's where we're operating until we receive, direction to do something different. Troopers are out there stopping cars, probable cause traffic violations, violations of state law.
Okay. What internal policies, guidelines, and training does the THP have regarding immigration status during traffic stops? And how are they trained? It's a difficult, confusing area of law. And how are we training the troopers to deal with that?
Yeah, I appreciate that question. For us, it's actually pretty simple. We start with a law that was, a traffic violation that was, created by this legislature and others before. So that's where we start. So a trooper does what a trooper does every day, no matter who they're dealing with. We stop a person for a violation. We go and encounter them, ask them for license, registration, proof of insurance. And when they can't produce any of those documents, then we start asking questions about it. But we do have approximately 50 personnel that are either trained in some of those further, because you're right, the immigration law and some of that stuff is very technical. We have roughly 50, like I said, that are either have been or going through the training to be able to assist other troopers and other agencies if they encounter a stop like that. But the advice now is if you have somebody, that's you end up having to arrest and you think their status is unclear, then you notify ICE, you notify the jails that they're going to, and we take them to jail, and then it becomes somebody else's responsibility.
I just want to point out that during the week of that operation, troopers wrote nearly 80% less citations than the week before. Again, I'm glad to hear that you're not working with them. I hope you continue to hold the line, because we need you doing what we need you doing, and that's not it. Do you have a way of tracking trooper time spent conducting operations with federal partners, including federal immigration partners? And do we have any idea how much money has been spent or was spent? And do you expect to spend more? I'm hearing possibly no, but from a budget standpoint, do you have any way to tell us what that cost the state of Tennessee? And then, what do we think if they decide to co-opt you again?
We can figure out those numbers. I don't know if we did that, and Director Hadley can probably say yes or no, we didn't for that. But we have for other operations. We track, our response to Hurricane Helene, so we can track it. I don't know that we did for that, like 6 nights, but we can come up with those numbers.
Okay.
We know what 9 troopers hourly pay for 6 days. We can come up with those numbers.
Yeah, and I'm guessing those 50 officers you're talking about, were they trained through the 287G program? Is that where they're getting that specialized additional training, or can you tell me how many officers have gone through that training?
Yes, sir. We'll get you the exact numbers. We are going to have 50 total. I know we've done some portion of that 50. It is the 287G program through the federal government.
You're asking for an increase, hire 120 additional state troopers. Is this based on, we think we've got more dangerous roads, or do you foresee, and are you staffing up to do more immigration enforcement?
No, this is all about our vehicle miles traveled, our tourism, our population growth. That it's always been that. We started this really in 2019 when Commissioner Long and Governor Lee came in. We started because the Highway Patrol had only created 25 or 36 brand new positions really since its inception. And so our population had virtually doubled, registered vehicles, licensed drivers, vehicle miles traveled, all that had grown. We are just trying to meet the demands of the motoring public. And it started long before any of this other stuff did.
Thank you for that answer.
Yes, sir.
A recent article from the Institute for Public Service Reporting in Memphis shows that the Memphis Task Force has triggered a 500% increase in vehicle pursuits, and that the THP is responsible for almost 90%. Have you had a chance to produce your vehicle pursuit policy? And if not, why? Can you talk through that?
Well, I can explain why the vehicle pursuits, and we have a good, robust policy that really, and we hold our people to it. Every pursuit is investigated. And I mean, anecdotally, more times than not, troopers, I mean, there's so many things, it is a dangerous thing, but somebody has to catch really bad people doing really bad things. And so it's gone up because, Governor Lee said it, we had 8 troopers working Shelby County in 2019, and then we had 25, and then we had 50, and now we've got roughly 100 every minute of every day working. So they're going to go up. Historically, people have run or fled police in Shelby County at high numbers, and certain agencies don't pursue. And we've had very few troopers, and we terminate pursuits that are unsafe. But even when we terminate a pursuit, we still investigate it, and it still gets reported as a pursuit.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. And Chairman, thank you. Just a few more questions. Thank you for the leeway here. A couple of questions regarding the Central Immigration Enforcement Office that we started last year. What is the accountability process for the CIED? Given that its records are shielded from the public and accessible through FOIAs, given the excess in force we've seen in other states, what measures are in place to ensure that this department is following the Constitution and respecting individual constitutional rights? And I don't see anybody here. Is someone here from that department?
You want me to answer, Greg?
Why would you not bring someone from that department to the?
He's here.
Oh, you are here. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Hi, my name's Greg Mays. I'm the Deputy Commissioner for the Tennessee Office of Homeland Security. The Centralized Immigration Enforcement Division sort of comes up under me along with all the Homeland agents across the state. It's a separate division, but we support it with, especially as they just got started with payroll and that kind of thing. Your question about how do we keep track of what they're doing or whatever? When they were created, they were required to produce a report to the General Assembly, which I think they just sent in a couple of weeks ago, the first report. So they report semi-annually or annually on their activities of what they're doing and on the status of the immigration and grant that this body created, the $5 million grant. And so I'm not sure what I could say beyond that. I'm happy to answer any more.
Thank you. Thank you for the answer. What role did that department play in coordinating the THP operations last year?
No, none.
I'll answer that one. Absolutely nothing.
What role has it played in this Memphis operation?
The immigration division?
Yes, sir.
Nothing.
Okay. Well, that's all the questions. Thank you very much. I know that this is something that's important to a lot of Tennesseans, and I encourage you to approach this with the compassion that it deserves. And anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Leader Lambert, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Glad to see such a fine crowd today for the budget hearing. It's the people's money, so I'm always pleased to see a lot of folks turn out and see how we debate this particular budget. Well, we'll have some musical accompaniment as well. That's nice too. So,
all right, folks. Listen, we want everybody to stay here, but if you're not going to be respectful of this committee, then we will have to have you removed. Sergeant of Arms, please remove the guests that are being disrespectful.
well, I guess y'all can sing or we can talk about the budget. I
Members,
prefer we talk
we're going
about
to
the
take a
budget.
2-minute recess, Commissioner. 2 minutes. Give us 2 minutes. Without objection, we're going to recess 2 minutes.
So I actually have some legitimate questions. The questions I have are not typically spirited. They're just legitimate questions.
All right, we're back. Leader Lambert, you're recognized.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman, for that musical interlude. I was going to ask the Commissioner, Commissioner, how many years have you been in law enforcement?
I got you.
You know what the 10 is?
0320.
Thank you.
Well, hang on, Commissioner. I don't think my mic was on. There it is. Commissioner, what I was going to say is, or what I just asked you, how many years have you been in law enforcement?
53 years.
Commissioner, do you remember who was the president when you first began law enforcement? I'm just curious. It's been a minute. Or maybe one of the
1971,
first.
whoever president was in 71.
Do you remember, did you serve in law enforcement when President Clinton was president?
Yes.
How about when President Obama?
Yes.
Bush 1?
Yes.
Bush 2?
Yes.
Trump 1?
Yes.
Biden?
Yes.
Trump 2?
Yes.
During each of those administrations, have you cooperated in your law enforcement duties all the way up and including time as commissioner with federal law enforcement agencies that are investigating crimes in this state?
Yes.
Do you still do that job today?
Sworn by law to do it.
If there's any malfeasance or inappropriate behavior by any one of your troopers, do you take that seriously?
Absolutely.
Do you put up with any type of behavior that violates your policies or procedures that you have established as commissioner?
No.
And sir, do you do that after 50, you said 3 years, with not only a vast amount of experience, but with a enormous amount of talent, skill, wisdom, and ability? If you want to be humble, you can deny that. But I'll just go ahead and say that in my time, which is only 21 years as an attorney, I've seen you in multiple different roles. I've never seen a time when you didn't hold an officer who was answering to you accountable for anything that violated policies and procedures. I realize there's been some isolated press reports of behavior that does not reflect the whole of the Tennessee Highway Patrol. If there is anything that you find has a factual basis that violates policies or procedures of the Department of Safety and Homeland Security, will you investigate it and hold those folks accountable?
Yes, and I promise this committee I will hold them responsible.
And Commissioner, I may not be able to speak for everyone in this committee, but I deeply, deeply believe that, because the best predictor of future behavior is past performance. And your performance has been exemplary, which is why we have voted over and over again in a bipartisan fashion. And I'm still old enough to remember when Democrats and Republicans, both alike, stood against illegal immigration. And when we all cooperated together at city, county, state, and federal level to stand against crime. Would it surprise you that in the city of Memphis 3 years ago, there were 398 homicides? Are you aware of that?
Yes.
2 years ago, there were 297. Did you know that, Commissioner?
Yes.
This past year, I believe there were 160. Is that about accurate?
That's about accurate.
3 years ago, we began a journey where we began adding on trooper roles. This body, this committee, voted to add 100 troopers, voted to add 50 troopers, voted to add additional resources for the TBI. Your budget's gone up significantly to add additional troopers in the city of Memphis. It's no coincidence that when our troopers are working the streets to the high level of degree of professionalism that they do, you have fewer crashes, you have fewer evading arrest. And when you evade arrest, you don't have a policy where you just let them go. You evade safely and you follow your policies and procedures. But the word has gone out throughout this state. If you run for a trooper and they catch you, you're going to prison. Is that fair enough?
That's fair enough. And I also will add that the shootings on the interstate system of Memphis, since the troopers have been there, are close to zero.
And Commissioner, I want you to say that again, just in case folks didn't hear it. Because can you imagine if you live in a community where it is the norm and you're driving to work, to school, to church, going to visit your local government offices, and the norm is that you might get shot driving in your vehicle on the roadways. Repeat what you just shared that is down.
Our first deployment with major numbers of troopers was asked by the administration in Memphis and law enforcement in Memphis to assist them because of the number of shootings on Interstate 240 in Memphis. And since that time, we have had task force there that would stop the shooting. When we pull out, it would begin back. And since the Safe Task Force has started, that number is, Representative Parkinson tell me more than I can, but it's down close to zero now lately.
And Commissioner, that is obviously the goal, and I deeply appreciate your dedication to the safety of the people, not only in Memphis, but throughout this entire state, because Memphis has been an example of where Republicans and Democrats alike, city, county, state, and federal officials all work well together with respect to a high set of standards to reduce crime in a particular area in this state that had a very high crime rate, and it is plummeting. And again, in a bipartisan and local, state, federal, everybody all working together. And Commissioner, I want to commend you for that. I want to go into another area here just for a moment. Commissioner, you've known me a long time. You know my story. Some of the folks that are here today may or may not care, but I'm going to spend just a couple of seconds mentioning why this next topic matters. When I was just a child, my Aunt Lola was killed by a drunk driver. There were officers that worked that crash. They handled her body that was broken and run over by a drunk that was headed to Mardi Gras. They walked my family before I could even remember it occurring through one of the darkest days of our family history. And my Aunt Lola's frozen in time. The folks that left don't care about that, but my family cares about her life. The people of this state care about every single life. Every single life. The drunk that killed her was prosecuted by a fine gentleman that was an assistant district attorney in Sumner County by the name of Ray Whitley. He just retired, as you know, after 50 plus years of being a prosecutor and walking that path with hundreds of families. Members, last year we had one of the lowest crash rates and lowest vehicular homicide rates this state has ever seen. You can play politics with people's lives, but there are fewer families like mine that has gone through what Representative Gant went through when he was hit by a drunk driver and almost lost his life, and thousands of other families have. The troopers that are on the roads are not a political punching bag. They are there to save lives. We are this year looking at a budget expansion of 50 additional troopers. My hope and prayer is that that will pass and that you will have the resources you need to be able to keep our streets safe. The only other thing I'm going to say is I've got a list here from a crime report from the district attorney's office. I'm not going to go through all of these. It's been made public, but there's 2,920 DUIs that were committed by illegal immigrants last year. There were 41 homicides, 41. Those are facts and figures. It's not politics. It's just life. When we have more troopers on the roads, we have more detectives that can be investigating homicides. We have safer roads and safer communities. Commissioner, I stand with your absolute dedication to keeping a very high standard at the Department of Safety, but I'm sick and tired of the politics of this issue because there are lives that are being saved by this commissioner and by the Department of Homeland Security and Department of Safety and Homeland Security here. And all we're here to talk about today is how we invest the people's money to make sure you've got the resources to save more lives. Thank you very, very much from the bottom of my heart for your dedication.
Thank you, Leader.
All right. Thank you, Leader. Chairman Hawk, I think you've got some folks you'd like to recognize. You're recognized.
I do. Thank you very much, Chairman. On their yearly visit to the Capitol, we have from the Greene County Mennonite School. We've got several folks here that came into the audience a little while ago. Why don't you all stand up and my colleagues can welcome you. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate you coming down and learning how your legislature works. Thank you very much. Thank you, Chairman.
All right. Thank you, Chairman Hawk. All right, let's go to Vice Chairman Gillespie. Vice Chairman Gillespie, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. Commissioner, Colonel, team, thank you all so much for being here. No questions for y'all. Just wanted to say, in the last 6 years, I've worked a lot with y'all on trying to make Memphis a safer place. We are finally headed in that direction. We're done living in fear. we're no longer going to live in fear in Memphis. Because of your work, we're not living in fear now. So thank you so much on behalf of all the constituents that I represent and then the 1 million+ people that live in Shelby County. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next on the list, Representative Love. You're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Commissioner, thank you for your presentation. I did want to go back a moment to some things that were said in response to Representative Freeman's questions about ICE agents and THP. A statement was made that most of these are probable cause and state law violation. I would direct your attention, however, to either the Banner article or Mother Jones article, where, according to the video, one particular officer says this might fill us up. They're definitely not English speakers. On a separate occasion, a trooper runs a license before immediately handing it to an ICE agent. Check him. He doesn't speak any English. Yet another video tells where he says Nolensville's always going to be good, referring to a road that runs to an area with immigrant-owned businesses. I heard what you said, but it's hard when we have video with an officer saying these words, because it implies that it's not probable cause. It's not a state law violation. It's an officer singling out a person based on what he or she thinks because of what he or she thinks they might sound like or might not be able to communicate effectively. And so I wanted to address that a little bit because the reference was that these were all state law violations and probable cause stops. Can you speak to that?
Yes, sir. I appreciate the question, and I know, your heart and where you're coming from, but still, what you're describing is a probable cause traffic stop. So the after the fact, when we go up and talk to somebody, and a trooper comes back, and I don't know about these particular, and we're gonna look into it. Troopers, I'm sure, said some insensitive things to each other, talking to other police officers, but it was still a probable cause traffic stop where we walked up, and now somebody might not have, I'm not even going to get into how they speak or how they sound, but if they don't have documentation on them, a driver's license or some other form, then we're going to investigate that. And when we decide that their status is in question, then we're going to hand it off to the ICE agent that was in the car. Like I said, this was a 6-night operation that we haven't done anything like it since. But troopers made probable cause stops. They did their job in high traffic, high volume. So Nolensville Road is a high traffic, high volume, high crash, just like Murfreesboro Road, just like a lot of roads, Riley Parkway around Nashville. But if any insensitive or inappropriate things, like Commissioner said, were said that violate our policy and procedures, then we will handle that accordingly. I assure you of that. But and if it gives the appearance, we make probable cause traffic stop. That's it. That was our direction. Troopers are in charge of the traffic stop. In most cases, we made the stop, walked up without anybody else getting out of our car. It was a trooper and an ICE agent in cars. And then we would come back and say, this person has maybe a questionable status. And that's their job to look further. We had the probable cause and the reason to be there. It's now the ICE officer's job to find out if that person is or is not, here legally.
Representative Love.
Thank you. So I just appreciate your response. If we can, when you look into it,
yes,
just appreciate the lack of sensitivity that comes out in that. Second thing is that another report, separate issue, sober DUI arrest. 2,547 people arrested for DUI, but not under the influence since 2017. 37, particularly by THP. Even in an effort to stop people from driving drunk. I think there needs to be an attempt to address instances where persons are being pulled over and are being charged when there may not be the evidence there. And so I know we've had a long few rounds, but I just want to raise that issue and tell you that I'm very interested in that because it can have a negative impact upon someone's life when you stop them and there's no evidence of it, notwithstanding the issues where there are very viable stops, but in this instance where it's not, and a person has to go and then prove that they were not in that situation. I appreciate you looking into that. And could you speak to that as well?
Yes, sir. I really appreciate it. I'd love to speak into it. So I just want to start by saying no trooper in any circumstance wants to arrest somebody or charge somebody with a crime they don't believe they committed. Now, are there times where there's been a couple articles, we've had troopers that have, in our looking at them, have made good arrests, but maybe written bad reports and bad follow-ups. I'll tell you this, and I've, of the 189, that's the number that came out. I don't know the 2,500, but we'll work into those numbers too that you just mentioned. But the 189, and this isn't about you. I hate the word sober driver because that's not the case. We've reviewed videos. What it is a report that comes back and says they don't have drugs or alcohol in their system at the time the blood was taken out of them. What I can tell you is that of the 189, 28 of those were fatal crashes we worked. We get blood from everyone in a fatal crash. Nobody was charged with a crime. In some cases, it was the deceased person. So the number really is 161. And of the 161, 112 people admitted to drugs and or alcohol use, period. I don't know why there was nothing on their systems. And some of those people had the evidence in the vehicle, drugs in the vehicle, empty containers in the vehicle that they admitted to taking, 112 of 161. I can't explain that other than to tell you. And we don't, a DUI doesn't stop after we walk up to the car. A DUI case starts with the vehicle in motion, how they're driving, you know, swerving in between lanes, failure to maintain their lane. It starts there. That's where our observation starts. That's where our cameras start collecting it. Then we walk up and we see things. We driver behaviors. It takes somebody way too long to get their driver's license out of their pocket. That's an indicator. Not in and of itself. It's not a single, but that is an indicator. We pull our driver's license out like it's, you know, I know where it's at. Mine's right here. I can flip through my little and pull it out. Somebody that takes 5 minutes going through that. So that's another thing. Bloodshot, watery eyes, slurred speech, smells, all these things. What I'm really getting is our training is second to none in Tennessee, and troopers go out of the way. But there are times when it's tough and it's difficult, and troopers have the ability to make the decision on the side of the road. So some of the things that have been said are, you know, there's a quota or pressure. I'm going to follow Leader Lambert, and certainly there is pressure to make sure that no one is killed or hurt or injured on a roadway in Tennessee by an impaired driver. It's still about the second leading, measured thing. It's down more than it's ever been. Usually it hovers around 25% of all fatal crashes. This past year, we were down to about 18%, but that's still one of the largest leading contributors to, outside of not wearing a seatbelt, which is always number one. It's always just below half of people. So troopers, there is pressure to go out and make sure, but the decision is theirs. There's no pressure from me or commissioner or anyone in the chain of command. You got to get this many, you got to, all of them, all impaired drivers. And there are people that are, and there's things that just can't and aren't and won't be tested for. And there's certain, I offer up an example of the person who has, because there's several of these on this list, have a couple of beers, they take an over-the-counter allergy medication, they take an over-the-counter sleep aid in combination. And by the time we go and get a warrant, and that's another thing, we now get a warrant for everyone driving a car that we think's impaired, a warrant for their blood. So we get blood on, it's not 100%, it can never be 100%, but there was a time where people said, no, you're not getting my blood, and we charged them with another crime. Now we get on all of them. So there's going to be more unfortunately 0 but it doesn't mean they aren't impaired. And we have people of those 100 and I'm saying 61 that took their prescribed lots of different painkillers and medications, and they think that makes them legal. It does not. It's doing what the Oxycontin or the Xanax or Valium or muscle relaxer does. It's supposed to relieve pain. It's supposed to impair. You're not supposed to drive a car. I wish it wouldn't say, don't operate heavy machinery, because people don't think that means their car. I think think it means their tractor or something like that. Don't operate a car. If you take medication, you can't drive a car. You run the risk. And then if you have 2 beers on top of it, those 2 beers might be out of your system by the time we get your warrant for your blood draw and then ultimately get you, it gets tested. So that there's a lot of factors, but impairment can come from things over the counter too. Just like, I say this every minute. I mean, Jack Daniels is over the counter. I shouldn't say that. Whiskey is over the counter. So just because you can go buy it at a pharmacy and take it doesn't mean it won't contribute to your impairment. And some of those things, we try not to say too much publicly about what's not tested for, because people will use that and then drive their vehicles. So it comes from a place for us. We just want to get impaired drivers off the road. Our numbers are lower. I've looked at the surrounding states. I mean, like 3 times lower than some of our surrounding states. It makes me think there's a lot we're missing. But I want us to do it right, and we're evaluating everything, and I want us to be open. In the future, I will be able to tell you the name of every person involved in every one of these cases. We're creating a system in THP. So the District 1 through District 8, we're 8 districts across state, all have a reporting system that feeds into something centralized that I can access, and we can talk about it. And any person that we're reviewing all of our training. I mean, we're doing the things. I know we're doing the things to hold ourselves accountable, make sure we're doing it right. Training needs we're addressing. If somebody has done something wrong, if we find the trooper that is just out here, I won't use a word that was used, recklessly taking people to jail without, I don't believe that's the case of all the ones we have reviewed. Now it's the 24, 25 will be done soon. Some of those are still haven't gone through the lab yet, and we haven't gotten results on. But I will say, the majority of the cases, people pled guilty to DUI or lesser crimes. So, but we are reviewing it all, and we're going to hold ourselves accountable in the places we need to.
All right. Thank you, Colonel. Thank you, Chairman.
All right. Thank you. Next on the list, Representative Shaw.
Thank you, and thank you all for being here this morning. And Colonel, I want to kind of go in a different direction. I first of all, I want to tell you that I admire seeing the highway patrols out on the road. Last 25 and a half years that I've traveled I-40, it's been a pleasure to see a trooper's car. So I'm not here to complain about that, and I appreciate all that you've said. But I do want to ask you, last year, I think it was last year, it might have been the early part of last year, I counted 16 troopers in Bolivar writing tickets for seatbelts and none on the road. Can you tell me why? Because between Jackson and Bolivar is where I think troopers ought to be, in between 64 and Somerville, and they were in the city limits of Bolivar writing seatbelt tickets, and we got a police department. Can you respond to that?
Yes, sir. And specifically that particular, you talked to me before about an incident with a singular incident, but I talking to my team, we will do operations periodically with whether it's the Sheriff's Department in Hardeman County or the Bolivar Police Department when they ask for our support. But troopers should be out on major state and U.S. routes and interstates. I mean, that's where we want them. And that's our focus, unless something happens where there's, an uptick of fatal or injury crashes in an area. I'll come back with a more specific of why I had 16 troopers.
Well, that did concern me, because I was thinking the same thing, that they should be watching folks who are running 65 or 70 with no seatbelts on rather than people driving 25 or 30 miles an hour. Another thing that I've experienced since I've been traveling, I see troopers make routine traffic stops and pull people over in bad places. Is it anything wrong with the trooper directing that person, if it's a routine traffic stop, to a safe place to write a ticket? Because I've seen people just hanging off the side of the road, and it makes, to me, creates more danger than good.
It does. I appreciate the question, because this is something we train all of our troopers on, don't make traffic stops and get through a curve, get to a straightaway, get to a lit area, get to a larger shoulder area. The one thing we don't control about a traffic stop is where the person we're trying to stop stops. And in those cases, most of the time we'll walk up and say, hey, can you pull a little bit further up the road? There's a safer spot up here. But in some cases, for whatever reason, the stop will still occur in that unsafe place. But it's the most dangerous thing any police officer does is stand on the side of the road. So it's the thing we point to in training all the time. So our troopers don't want to be in unsafe spots for themselves and certainly for the motoring public that they're stopping.
All right. Thank you, sir. Appreciate what you do.
Thank you, Representative Shaw. Next on the list, Representative Parkinson. You're recognized, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Commissioner, thank you so much for being here. Colonel, thank you for being here. And let me say this, first of all, Colonel Jimmy Johnson, who operates in Shelby County, truly appreciate you and the level of communication that we have. So let me be emphatically clear on that. I do want to bring some context also to a lot of the things that are being said in regards to Memphis. Due to the actions of previous city administration, a few administrations back actually, there was a change to the retirement system in regards to Memphis Police Department and Memphis Fire Department. When that happened, we had a mass exodus of Memphis police officers that left the force. And we're still in a space where we're trying to catch up with that full complement of Memphis police officers. The city of Memphis, so people understand the context, the city of Memphis is 360 miles square miles in size. Right. So we're not, Boston is much smaller. What is it, 60 square miles, I think it is, the city of Boston. And so we're a much more spread out city, which means that we need a larger complement of officers for protection of the citizens because of how big the city is. But there was a deficit, right? But also in that same time, we were not receiving our full complement of troopers. Am I correct? Y'all remember that? And so we might have had one or two, if I'm not mistaken, in that 360 mile. Well, when you add Shelby County to it, it's more than 360 miles, right? And so this went on through the Haslam administration, and then when we got to Governor Lee's administration, he started picking the numbers up in regards to troopers and the assignment to Memphis and Shelby County, right? And so I think that's important to note. When it comes to the freeway shootings, prior to that complement of Tennessee Highway Patrol officers being assigned to Memphis, there were multiple, almost daily freeway shootings. People died. This is a real issue. Now, let me correct something. It is not normal. It was never, ever normalized by our city, by our citizens, by anybody that lives in the city of Memphis. Actually, it was completely abnormal, right? So I don't want it to be the narrative to say that was a normal thing for us in the city of Memphis, because that's completely abnormal. And it was never, ever accepted as the norm. I want to make sure that we're correct on that. Now, with that complement of state troopers that have been added to the city of Memphis, those freeway shootings are, if you don't even hardly hear about them today. And that's a fact. That's a fact, right? This is not well, I do want to give y'all credit for it. Let me be clear on that. With the assistance, because here's what's happening in Memphis. In Memphis today, I think we are down 400 police officers. And I'm not sure how many troopers we have in there right now, but I know that it's in the double digits, right? High double digits. And that helps. So if the troopers are patrolling our freeways and our interstate, that frees up the personnel from Memphis Police Department to do the other things that they need to do in regards to their law enforcement duties. So I think that's important for people to know. Before that, I think this is important also. Before that, because Memphis Police Department has, and I'll say it, Colonel, you didn't say it, but I'll say it. Memphis Police Department has a no chase policy, and it was warranted. There was incidents that happened several years back where someone lost their life because of a chase situation. So they had this no chase policy, but individuals in the city knew that they could not chase. So you would see sometimes, and some of you have seen the video. I'm not proud of it. Excuse me. I'm not proud of it, but there were individuals that knew that Memphis Police Department couldn't chase. So they would literally be doing donuts in front of the Memphis Police Department. And Memphis Police Department would, in some cases, pursue them as much as they could, but they still had that policy in place so that they could not do the chase. Now, our state troopers, they don't have that policy. And so some of these individuals, so there are chases that are ensuing. Now, I do want to bring this up, though. There was an incident where, a chase did happen here recently, and a mother and her child were in the car, and they ended up hitting a tree, and it was tied to a police chase with Tennessee Highway Patrol. Right. Now, my question to you is there, are we reviewing the chase policy so that, because from what I understand, based on what's published, that there was the stop was because of lights that weren't dimmed, right? And so I want to ask, are we reviewing the chase policy to create a process to determine where it's important to chase and where it may not be in the best interest of the public to chase? Colonel, you.
All right. Thank you for the comments and certainly the question. Yes, sir. We have a very strong policy. We review every pursuit and to include looking at do we need to tweak things. But our policy is lots of things, but it also requires supervisor monitoring, dispatches notified, troopers have to notify immediately. And first thing that a trooper has to relay traffic conditions, weather conditions, and all these kind of things, what the stop is for. And so it's all monitored by a supervisor that's working. And I think we probably cancel, or, a supervisor says, hey, terminate the pursuit. We terminate probably more than we actually see to the end. And we terminate them anywhere along the way that we believe. And that's why traffic conditions are important. And then supervisors who know the areas, and then troopers are responsible themselves. It's not good enough. There was a time where policy probably gave troopers a little more flexibility, and we mandate the trooper, like you can't have tunnel vision. You have to end a pursuit when it's going. There's plenty of unsafe areas, areas where the public frequents, certainly pedestrian traffic. So troopers have to end pursuits themselves, and when they don't, and when they do things that put themselves in danger or the public, then we discipline them. Commissioner can testify that because he signs off on all of those. But our policy is good, and we do have to, we've got to, unfortunately, somebody's got to catch bad people doing bad things.
And thank you for that. Then I push back respectfully. If it's an infraction that they're being pulled over for not dimming their lights, that's and a chase ensues, regard to, I'm asking you to review your policy, to, take a look at it, to see if there's some tweaking that can be done, because somebody not dimming their lights, I mean, it's not a felony pursuit, obviously, right? And so I'm asking you to take a look at that, if you will.
Yes, sir. And we will. And I'm going to look at, I'm not familiar with the specific pursuit you're talking about. We're going to look at that too. So I may reach out for just a little bit more information.
Greatly appreciate it. One last thing, let me be factual about. I'm always going to be factual, as a matter of fact. So Memphis Safe Task Force, Memphis Police Department, and in our mayor's administration, for the first, I'm going to say first 2 years, crime was trending down in as a matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, I think the goal was to reduce crime 10% each year, or 10 or 20% each year, in all areas of crime under the Mayor Young's administration. And 2 years into that, they actually doubled their goal in reduction of crime, violent crime, all across the board. So I think that's important to note. Of course, when Memphis Safe Task Force started operations, that number changed even more, right? And that's a fact, right? It is also a fact, that behaviors change. That's a fact. That's a fact. Let me be clear. Let me put this on the record. So my tweet does not, my words don't get twisted. I'm not praising the president in this. So make sure when you do your tweet, you put that in there too. What I am saying is that there was a reduction. Memphis takes safe. You guys came online. There was an even more reduction because y'all were there before Memphis Safe Task Force. Then Memphis Safe Task Force. Right now, behaviors in the city of Memphis and Shelby County have changed. That's a fact, right? People are getting their tags now on time. That's a fact, right? Now, here's the other thing, though. There was a situation where members of Memphis Safe Task Force, and I think when I watched the video, I saw some troopers there also. There was a guy that owns a business that in Memphis that said he did not want to serve National Guard members. But National Guard ain't doing nothing but eating barbecue, but don't make them do anything else. They're doing fine. Now, there were members of law enforcement, both federal, local, and state troopers that pulled up and just sat in their parking lot and kind of in a harassing manner. So I want you, if you will, Colonel, to look into that, and Colonel, if you will, to look into that, just to make sure, just to ensure that if there is some mean-spirited harassment happening, that we're not taking part in that, if you will. And that's my comments. But thank you for everything. Thank you guys for all that you're doing. Thank you for all that you're doing in our city. Thank you for the beefed up compliment. We got some trooper stations that's coming to city of Memphis, and hopefully we'll get one off of I-40 in Warford, or New Allen. And I appreciate it again. Thank you. And Mr. Chair, thank you for your indulgence.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Representative Sparks, last one on the list.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Colonel. I want to make this real quick. I want to show you about a young man that was killed on I-24. It's young Taylor Noah. This is why your efforts matter. Had another person killed on I-24. This crime was solved. Young 22-year-old boy. I guess you could say he was my neighbor. He was one of my neighbors. And your job matters. Early this year, I was giving a nurse a ride to Una School from Smyrna. Her son sadly was killed in a car wreck. I had to be the one to call her, tell her son had died. He was my son's best friend. And wasn't a bad kid. He was 17, just a rambunctious like a lot of us were at the time. Nathan Neely was his name. So Suzanne, who's a nurse at Una, her car kept breaking down. And that's just a terrible area right there, sir. Murfreesboro from Laverne to Una. It's just terrible. She had nowhere to pull off, and I started giving her a ride. But it was cool seeing it, Chairman, because I started seeing things on the highway. Started seeing crime like I'd never seen before. Seen dirt bikes driving in the center lane. Seen somebody doing donuts at a school bus stop. I'm like, man, the times they've changed. I was like, wow, this is just getting crazy. And she was like, yeah, this is what I'm seeing, Your job matters. I want to give a shout out to Jeff Truong, a Smyrna police officer. Laotian police officer. I happened to be at my Kurdish friend's car lot the other day, Saturday, and he stopped by just to check on them, because they've had a lot of theft and problems over there. But seeing that really opened my eyes. So I called Metro a couple of times, 862-8600. You're welcome to test me on this, 862-8600. Couldn't get them on the phone. Got a voicemail. I was like, wow, the times they've changed. Then I called y'all, called the commissioner. So, man, is there any way you can just beef up some patrols? Y'all got some troopers out there. Your job matters. Your job matters. You know, I often talk about my grandbabies. I worry about their future. I worry about the crime in our community. Your job matters. We passed the illegal street racing task force that was bipartisan, Representative Jason Powell. It's really Jason's idea. And I appreciate what y'all are doing, because traveling that stretch of I-24 like I do every day, you're taking your life in your own hands. I mean, you really are. I see the troopers. I see a lot of them. And it really matters. Shout out to my chief, Christopher Mose in Laverne, Smyrna Chief Jason Irwin, Officer Andy Miller. You know, I know it's going to be hard to continue to fund this. What's happening in Memphis, like Parker said, looks like it's a good thing. Is it sustainable? I'll dare say it's not sustainable. But the death of Noah Taylor matters, and your job matters. And this is a question from an officer that's real close to me. He says, ask if they've seen negative attitudes towards law enforcement. Have they seen an increase in resistance to authority? And have they seen an increase in assault on law enforcement? Can you answer that?
I can answer it for us, and I appreciate the question for THB. I have not seen an increase, and this is anecdotal. We'll get some real numbers
Yes,
for
sir.
you and compare year over year. But I haven't seen any assault on officer. Tennessee Highway Patrol increase. Attitude. Well, I think recent public reports and some of the media stuff is probably. I'm sure troopers are hearing negative comments probably more recently on the heels of probably really good. I mean, in Tennessee over the last, several years, I mean, I think the image has been really good of law enforcement. We've always received tons of support, certainly from you and the General Assembly and the governor. But I do think some of this media stuff, and I appreciate Leader Lambert really addressing some of that, it is probably affected troopers. And even if people aren't saying it to them, they're feeling it. And certainly we are. And we want people to recognize that we're just out there trying to make Tennessee safer and roads safer for, like you're saying, I-24 and so.
Is there, and no disrespect to Chief John Drake, they have added a precinct right there in the Antioch area, Murphy Road. So they are trying, but their hands are tied. They're down several officers. But thank you for what you do. Thank you, Chairman.
All right, thank you. And we have no one else on the list. Before we do finish up, I just want to say this. We've been talking about recruitment and retainment of our troopers. And so just want to bring up a little bill that I've got, in case anybody is curious. It's the STAR Act. It's actually enhancing some of the retirement for our troopers. And so I've got sign-on sheets. Be tickled to death for you all to get sign-on. It would basically just create a new defined benefit. So been working on that, and we'll continue to do so. And as I say that, I do want to mention Trooper Alex Campbell's been working hard, as well as many other troopers, but he's certainly kind of taking the lead on this. So look forward to trying to getting this over. Commissioner, thank you. Colonel, thank you. We appreciate you all very much. Thank you all for being here, and thank you all for answering our questions. We're going to transition now over to the TBI, and we're going to take just a 2-minute recess as we do that. Without objection, 2-minute recess.
got you.
I forgot who this is. Hold on.
All right, we're back in session. Deputy Director Nealon, thank you for being the A team today. We're glad to have you here, and members are coming and going, grabbing a bite to lunch. And so, if you would go ahead, introduce yourself and your team if you'd like, and then you're welcome to get started.
Yes, sir. I'm Brad Nealon, Deputy Director at TBI. To my right is Patrick Powell, Policy Director at TBI. To my far right is Brian Senecal, Fiscal Director at TBI, who has served a long career with the state of Tennessee and the TBI and is retiring next week.
Wow, congratulations.
To my immediate right is Rich Littlehale. He's Assistant Director of our Technology and Innovation Division. To his left is Rachel Russell. She's Deputy Counsel of Operations. And far on the end is Josh Melton. He's Assistant Director of the Criminal Division.
He's coming back.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to present today. With the past several years of investment in the TBI by the General Assembly and the Governor's Office and by the dedicated work of the men and women of the Bureau, TBI is today better capable to serve the needs of the citizens of the state of Tennessee than ever before. This investment includes additional scientist positions that has dramatically reduced statewide evidence laboratory inventory by 2/3. A cybercrime unit has been effective in recovering millions of dollars stolen from our citizens, as well as funding for pioneering new efforts by our special agents and scientists in the use of rapid DNA as a tool in identifying human remains, bringing answers to families suffering the unimaginable of not knowing. Additionally, a pay structure is set in place that has allowed us to recruit and retain the best. And as a longtime employee of the Bureau, I thank you for those efforts. The increase in operational personnel has naturally placed a growing burden on critical support positions within the Bureau. These positions are vital to support the maximize the daily operations of TBI. Our request is for 7 support personnel, our initial request. This is a request for a remaining 7 positions from an earlier review Director Roush did a few years back. Those positions include, as you can imagine, an HR position to keep up with hiring and the needs of the personnel matters. 1 IT position to eliminate a single point of failure and to modernize technology at TBI. An admin position, administrative assistant position for West Tennessee Crime Lab, where currently there is none, and they're shouldering the burden between the staff and scientists there. Position for the Tennessee Dangerous Drug Task Force. This position acts as a coordinator for the Tennessee Alliance for Drug Endangered Children, facilitates training for law enforcement, safety, and medical personnel. 2 positions in training. As the Bureau has grown, we have really put a focus on better training. In today's environment, it's imperative that we have to have training. Additionally, we are mandated to train agencies and help them along the way. And what we're seeing is as technology improves, as science improves, techniques for gathering evidence, techniques for investigating scenes have changed and evolved. And we have put in place a class where our agents are going across the state training local law enforcement on the newest, greatest, and best techniques for gathering evidence, particularly DNA and so forth, that we think will pay dividends and solve a lot of crimes that heretofore may have been overlooked. The last one being a CJIS position, and our criminal justice information services to help modernize the operations of our Tibers unit, the Tennessee I've lost my wording. Tennessee Incident-Based Reporting System. TBI gathers all the reports from across the local agencies. It's reported to TBI, and we report up to the national system. And what we're finding is across Tennessee, there are over 30 record management systems being utilized. And oftentimes we have difficulty with those matching what we need to work with. This person will work as a liaison and work through those issues with local law enforcement and vendors. Our next category we're requesting funding for is technology and equipment. We're in a space to where we need to improve our digital data at TBI. As we all know and deal with the digital world, it has grown immensely. And I remember the days of the floppy disk when I thought we were cutting edge, but those are far gone now. To give you an example, in a recent CSAM investigation by the agents, we seized over 60 terabytes of data in one case. That's enough storage to hold 20 million high-quality smartphone photos, 8 to 10 years of HD video, or 15 million songs. So the need is imperative. IT security enhancements. This is to protect against what we're all hearing about and seeing every day as cyber attacks and security intrusions. Investigative technologies. We're always trying to stay in front of the curve and on the tip of the spear as far as law enforcement investigations across the state. And we are constantly leaned upon to have those answers and questions. So this will be investment in technologies and abilities to go further. Artificial intelligence. That's an area that I think it intrigues all of us. We know that, and that's another area we've got to stay ahead of and utilize for the best efforts of law enforcement, and also to try to stay ahead of the criminal curve, because everything that we deal with has if we're using it, criminals are using it for no good. So we have to be able to stay in that realm. Thirdly, we are asking for funding for a rapid DNA unit. That is 3 scientists in each of our labs with kiosk to perform rapid DNA for local agencies as well as the Bureau across the state. Rapid DNA is it sounds exciting, and when we first heard it, Director Roush brought it to us back in 2018. And as we explored that, he advised that he wanted us to be on the tip of the spear with that. Funding provided by the legislature and by the governor's office have given us a foothold in that arena. We have got a machine or two, and we have, I wish I could explain how excited I am and how proud I am of the people, men and women of the Bureau. They have taken this. They're the type of people that you give them something to do, they don't bring you something back lackluster. They take it far beyond what you imagined. And this team has done it. And as you all well know, our team went to the AES explosion in Humphreys County recently, where the terrible tragedy occurred down there. And as we go on scene, unaccounted people are 16 in number. We hope that we would be able to identify 40%. To date, we have identified 15 of those. And that's part of my initial statement, where we've given answers to people that look for those answers that would be unimaginable without that. But Josh Melton on the far end, Assistant Director Josh Melton led that effort, and he with others in the Bureau and the Forensic Division have pioneered that and are actually have given seminars nationally, spoken about it nationwide. So I'm proud of them for that. One of our last things is we would ask for restored funding for 3 crime scene vehicles that were ordered last year in the budget, but they were not delivered until this fiscal year. Additionally, we'd offer up reductions this year to the tune of $672,200. We would find those in operational efficiencies of $172,200 and reduce salary equity by $500,000. Yes, sir. I'll answer any questions.
All right, thank you very much. We do have several folks on the list, and I just want to remind both, I guess, our questioners and our answerers, it is getting later in the day, so if we could just, I'm not trying to speed us up, just trying to make us more efficient. So let's just make sure you get to your question, you get to your answer, and let's move on. So thank you for being here, Deputy Director. So let's begin first off with Speaker Zachary. You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Deputy Director, thank you. You, your team, Patrick, Rachel, they're doing a fantastic job. We miss Chief Roush, but thank you for being here. Just a quick question. You touched on this briefly. I think we've proposed $5.8 million in the budget for IT needs, some of those outside of STS. Can you talk a little bit about what specifically those needs are and why they're not supported by STS? And then what upgrades and replacements is this 5.8 going toward?
Yes, sir. I am going to ask Rich Littlehale to step up to that question. You're good.
Okay. Oh, there it is. Sorry. Thank you very much for the question. So Rich Littlehale, Assistant Director for Technology and Innovation. To answer that, the first thing that would be helpful to understand is that TBI, because of our status as an independent agency of state government, is non-consolidated for IT purposes. So we maintain our own IT personnel and our own data center. We certainly partner closely with STS wherever we can. But in order to serve our independent investigative mission, we maintain our own Microsoft environment, our own storage, our own evidence storage, our own case management system. So the vast majority of TBI's IT infrastructure is not covered by STS. In fact, the areas where we are consumers of the state network. So we are within the perimeter security of the STS security group. You will notice that there are security items in here. That's because their security perimeter does not cover things like our server environment or our endpoints, right? So our laptops, cell phones, those sorts of things. Forgive me for not getting into too much detail because obviously we don't want to highlight any issues from a cybersecurity standpoint. But I hope that serves to explain broadly why this spend is necessary. And perhaps if you let me know if there are any particular items that I could summarize, I'd be happy to drill down.
No, thank you. That's good. And then can you speak, Deputy Director touched on this briefly. Can you just speak to the AI integration and what that looks like with TBI and kind of where you are in that process now and what that looks like maybe over the next 18 to 24 months?
Certainly. So we are exploring that actively, looking for areas where safe and responsible deployment of AI could assist in our mission and find efficiencies. We're grateful for Governor Lee appointing me to the State AI Council, and so that we're able to participate with our partners at STS in that effort to understand AI at as deep a level as possible. We also partner with STS in IT governance and the assurance that as we expand into this area, it is done with a very strong eye towards responsible use of state data. We are looking at two broad areas in AI. The first is specific projects to use AI to amplify our mission. One example of that is we are pursuing a search warrant acceleration
in internet crimes against children cases. So y'all have probably heard over the years, and it's certainly something that we communicate about the cyber tip backlog and the turnaround times that we have processing those leads for the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. We think AI gives us some opportunities there. And we are also looking at AI more broadly across the enterprise, just using routine tools that many different elements in government are looking at as a way to amplify the capabilities of our employees. So we are using approved methodologies, and we have to pay for those methodologies to accelerate processing of paperwork and other sort of routine business practices.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you to the team.
Thank you. Let's go to Leader Lamberth for a recognition.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and you guys are doing a fantastic job in your budget hearing. But we have a special guest, two special guests with us today, one of which is Will Lamberth, my son. Stand up, Will, and his friend Megan, both here from FFA. Come on. He will not speak to me for a week for doing that. So thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you and welcome. All right, let's go to Chairman Hawk. Chairman Hawk, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for being here. Please send Director Roush our best. Internet crimes against children. You touched on it a little bit with Speaker Zachary. Whenever there's not an ICAC affiliate, it falls back on us at TBI. Tell me, how many affiliates do we have in Tennessee currently? And I also want to talk about the budget requests that didn't occur. You all have been seeking 4 positions at $1.2 million. Doesn't appear to be in this budget. And I know sometimes you got to speak the company line on that, but we would like to talk about that. But the affiliates first, if you could, sir. Rich.
Representative, I don't have that number off the top of my head. As you probably know, the Knoxville Police Department is the mothership ICAC for Tennessee. We can absolutely get you that information. I know that we cover a goodly portion of the state, but we certainly have a lot of partners out there, and I can get you the exact numbers.
Chairman Hawk.
And thank you. And as cyber criminals get more sophisticated, we've seen so many young people here today. There's predators after our kids all the time. And I speak about this. My teenage daughter, I'm scared to death for what she might see out there. So I appreciate the work that we're doing. Can you pinpoint or give us ballpark the biggest cyber threats facing our children now? What are those means and mechanisms that they're being preyed upon?
So the existing, the dangers of exploitation that you've heard about in the past are certainly still prevalent. I would say the 2 off the top of my head that we are watching the most closely, which is not to say that the other stuff has gone away, are 2 emerging threats. One of those is the sometimes financially motivated and sometimes just, I don't know, wrongness motivated individuals who will sextort these victims. So they will lure them into producing images and then sort of hold them for ransom, either financial or additional images. That is extremely dangerous to these children because of the risk of self-harm, in addition to the problem of actually being victimized financially in that way. There's also the new threat of nihilistic violent extremism, which is a term that is sort of just emerged this year to describe people who will hack the human and basically attempt to gain access to these children and cause them to harm themselves. So we are monitoring both of those emerging threats and working cases on those as they emerge, in addition to the existing workload.
Thank you. And it's incredibly sickening just to hear what you just said. I've tried to tell my daughters, don't put anything out there that you don't want your grandma to see. And that doesn't always resonate with kids when they're 13, 14, 12, 13, 14 years old. So thank you for remaining vigilant on that. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman Hogg. Next on the list, Leader Cochran, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you all very much. We appreciate you being with us. Quick question on the TBI had requested 13 positions and a total of $3.5 million in state funding for Drug Investigation Division and for the Postal Task Force. This request was not funded in the proposed budget. So give us just a little bit more information on this. What is the need for the Postal Interdiction Task Force? And how will Tennessee be impacted if these positions remain unfunded?
So certainly what we have discovered is your higher level, mid to higher level drug dealers across the country are always searching new avenues to get their product where they need it. It is really amazing logistically how they will get product from A to B. Currently, with the strict reductions at the border, we have seen an increase in the package and postal, whether it's post office or private carriers, of packages coming through the mail. It is less dangerous for them to get caught. Coming in smaller parcels, if you lose it, you're not going to lose much. But the volume we have found has been tremendous. And as you know, here in Memphis, we have the FedEx facility. In Kentucky, UPS. So at time, we have a partnership with FedEx, and it's amazing at the packages that come through, several million normal packages a day. But that has become the tone and flavor of a lot of ways to get drugs from A to B. We would see local dealers driving to Texas or to Florida to get a kilo of cocaine or what have you. Now it's being delivered at doorsteps, often Airbnbs or places, or to even unwitting people. So there's many avenues to that. We just see that as a growing need and an emergence. And we have people assigned to working some of those areas, but the numbers are just vast. We could use those to cover that.
If that remains unfunded in our budget, are there any kind of federal funds we can go after?
So we are on federal task forces currently that we are working at package intercept, but we just feel statewide there's areas that we could assign agents to that would glean some benefit from an additional intercepts.
Okay. One last question. If you could tell us about the pill take back program, has that been successful?
It has. It's amazing to me. I mean, it's just thousands of pounds of narcotics that are incinerated and turned in just, yearly, monthly, weekly. We have trucks from our Tennessee Dangerous Drug Task Force that goes across the state to the different deposits and picks those up. But it is an amazing thing, and it's keeping a lot of drugs out of hands that don't need them, innocent and otherwise.
And those locations are in every county? Do we have one in every county?
I'm not sure that they're in every county, but they're in most every county if they're not.
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next on the list, Chairman Williams. Chairman Williams, you're recognized.
Thank you, Deputy Director. Just had a quick question. You had something unique about the budget last year where we decided that we wanted to test wastewater in Knox County. I noticed that a little bit of that money has been spent. My assumption is that you've deployed a few of those. I guess they're sampling systems, I guess. I wondered if you could share with us a little bit about what you've found, if anything, as it relates to narcotics or other things that's actually in the sewage system.
Sure. So as the contracts were signed and things moved forward, it's moved forward slower than we would hope. Currently, we have two entities on board, Roane County and a location in Hamilton County that's being tested. We hope to continue and ramp that up as we go. We're finding as what we normally find off the street now, we've got fentanyl. Fentanyl, I think, is one of the big ones. But, the major impact of this is really forward-thinking training and awareness to what's out there. From a crime lab perspective, TBI sees what is becoming prevalent in the state by what is submitted to the crime lab by local agencies and drugs, and we have a top 10. And this is another avenue that we hope to be able to see what's coming before it hits the public strongly.
Yeah, you noticed, you mentioned two different specific places that you're testing. I just didn't know if, for some reason, I thought it was in Knox County around the University of Knoxville, but are there any locations that you have that you've gotten tests back from or none?
No, we have got some tests back. Do you have that? No, Patrick?
My understanding is that we've gotten the results back in Roane County and Hamilton County. The original proposal did discuss Knox County. You're correct, Chairman. But the results so far have been coming from Hamilton and Roane, with surprising amounts of fentanyl use, is my understanding.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Next on the list, Representative Gann, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman. Director, thank you for being here with us, you and your team. I'll be quick. How many local law enforcement agencies in Tennessee currently lack access to DNA testing capabilities? And how many do you project to take advantage of a regional rapid DNA hubs?
I'm not familiar with any who have rapid DNA at this point, Josh.
I'm on? Okay. So as far as availability to DNA testing in its original form, that as we've seen before, every county has access to submit any testing to our laboratory for orthodox testing. I would say for rapid DNA, we are the only agency in the state of Tennessee in the law enforcement community that has rapid DNA instrumentation. In the very near future, however, we will have that deployed in Murfreesboro, in Knoxville, and we are in conversations with Chattanooga Police Department that they will be onboarded also. We expect that within 3 to 6 months, they will be up and operational through grant funding, and then through, if this rapid DNA unit successfully makes it through this process, then that will allow opportunity for us to engage other agencies across the state without limit. That doesn't, I could not tell you which agencies intend to onboard at this point, but I can tell you that we will also be deploying rapid DNA instrumentation in all 3 of our laboratories in Jackson, Nashville, and Knoxville, which will allow agencies to test an item, enter that into our instrumentation in all 3 of our grand regions, and then for our scientists to be able to process the results. So the entire state of Tennessee, hopefully by the end of the year, will have access to this instrumentation.
Okay, last question, Mr. Chairman. What is the difference in the 2 different technologies response time?
Yeah, so it's a good question. So rapid DNA happens in about 120 minutes. That's assuming that you have taken a sample from whatever you're sampling, putting it into the instrumentation and waiting for it to give you a result. So that's pretty quick. And that's assuming that you're testing something that has a high DNA value, blood, saliva, semen, human tissue. Those kinds of things have high concentration of DNA. There is a little bit more work on the back end of that. And if it is a sample such as touch DNA, if I touch this table and sample it, you may not get quite a profile that is as easy to interpret. So scientists may have to get involved in looking at that to be able to give you a better answer on if it is in fact who in fact it may be. So, and was your question then also, how does that compare to testing as it's traditionally done now?
Right, that's correct.
So as it's done now, I think about the fastest you can turn it around is in that 8 to 10 hour Mark, and that's with a team sitting ready to go, waiting for a sample to be brought in and handed to them. I think some of the problem is just that they're in the line with all of the rest of the samples. Whereas rapid DNA allows an agency to sample something, put it in a kiosk, it makes its way through a digital infrastructure to our crime lab, and this funding for rapid DNA will have one person in each region to immediately grab that rapid DNA sample, evaluate it, and provide return.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you. I've got a question regarding elderly financial abuse prevention. So you guys requested 10 positions to address elder financial abuse. It was not funded in the proposed budget. And of course, if you look at our population as a state, age 60 and older, it's one of the state's fastest growing demographics. So describe how the elder financial abuse scams are increasing and changing from what you guys are seeing, and what will the impact be from not having this funded?
Certainly, as you've mentioned, the crime against seniors is growing. It's a vulnerable population. And we see more and more of this through the digital wave, so to speak. Many different scams. There's a gold scam going on out there now that we are highly engaged in and doing some great things as far as making some recoveries from some seniors. One of the huge pieces is by whatever means that they get some of our seniors to take money and put into these Bitcoin machines to send it somewhere. It is it's a growing issue, and once that money goes through there, it's just pretty much gone. And we've seen instances where people have put just thousands and thousands of dollars believing that they're helping someone. So it's needed as the population grows. We are working those. Rich and his team, cyber team, have been very instrumental in doing a lot of training across the state, helping local law enforcement understand what to look for and how to go about process to retrieve funding when they can, or funds when they can. But it is a growing threat. Yes, sir.
Is the Silver Alert system, is it being heavily utilized in the state, and is that growing?
It is being heavily utilized, and I have the stats somewhere here. Oh, there we go. Thank you, Rich. In 2025, it was utilized 113 times, and 56 different agencies requested it in 40 different counties. In 2026, we had 18 requests so far from 14 different agencies in 13 different counties. It looks like that's a different one. Thank you. Yes, sir. Did that answer your question?
It did. Yeah. Thank you very much. That's very good to know. All right. Deputy Director, I have no one else on the list. You guys did a very good, thorough job, a good presentation. We certainly appreciate what TBI does, and we did do send our regards to Director Roush. We certainly missed him, but you guys did a great job standing in. So thank you all very much. And we will move right on to our next presentation. It will be by the Department of Health, and we will ask the Commissioner Dunn, to come forward. Commissioner, thank you for being here, and we just let you know, we will control the microphones up here, so once you're ready to begin speaking, you'll see your microphone light up red, and we'll control those, and you'll be ready to go. Again, thank you for being here, and we'll start with introductions. If you'll introduce yourself and who you have with you today. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thanks, Chairman Hicks. I have with me today from the Department of Health, John Webb, our Chief of Staff. Also up here at the front are J.W. Randolph, Dr. Toby Amison, and our General Counsel, Mary Catherine Bratton. So thanks for having us today. So thanks for the opportunity. For our FY27 budget, we would like to cover cost increases, then cost reductions, and describe key services delivered by local health departments. Lastly, I'll give updates on ARPA projects and a summary of the Rural Health Transformation Program recently presented to this group in the House Finance Expansion hearing. Our budget approach focuses on key programs and local primary care, cost increases with measurable results, and fiscal responsibility in meeting reductions that minimize impact to services and day-to-day operations. Our goal this afternoon is to give the committee a clear budget picture for consideration and answer your questions. So, Mr. Chairman, I'll start with the cost increases, with your permission. So I'll run through these in the order shown in the PowerPoint presentation. The first two increases support statewide dental services. For context, as most of you likely know, Tennessee remains near the bottom nationally in dentists per capita, making these training and access improvements critical. We're in the 5th year of our Healthy Smiles Dental Pilot Program. The request is for $24.2 million non-recurring. This has been a successful program in our estimation, and it's working because it combines workforce, training, and direct service delivery. On the training and pipeline side, UT has expanded the dental class to 130 students and doubled their dental hygiene class to 48. And the training is showing up in patient care. Through 6 external student rotations, UT reports more than 10,000 procedures across FY24 and FY25. We're also seeing the benefits at TDH in our local health departments. At the Cumberland County Health Department Dental Clinic, 36 UT students have completed rotations through Healthy Smiles, providing 657 patient visits. Meharry is a key partner as well, expanding their dental class to 75 students. Additionally, faculty and residents have provided almost 3,200 patient visits at TDH clinics in Stewart and Bledsoe counties. On the workforce side, we're using recruitment and retention tools to help us staff rural clinics. We've awarded over $2 million in loan repayment to 28 dental providers since February 1st, 2024, and 14 of those recipients are working directly for TDH in our clinics or in school-based programs. Since July 2025, we've hired 7 new dentists at TDH, which supports our rural emphasis and reopening capacity in communities that have gone without consistent clinical dental staffing. One real example is in Washington County, where TDH hired a dentist this last July, in July 2025. For the first time in 2 years, that clinic has been able to see patients on a full-time basis serving that community. And we also have the specialty service side to meet immediate needs while the workforce grows. Smile on 65 Plus has expanded access for older adults. Smile 180 addresses restorative needs for uninsured patients, delivering services to hundreds of uninsured patients. Finally, we're now seeing important workforce signals with these programs going on for a couple of years. In September 2020, in a September 2025 dental student survey, 130 of 350 respondents indicated plans to practice general dentistry in Tennessee. The request sustains what is working, so we don't lose momentum. The second request, also related to the dental activity, is funding LMU, Lincoln Memorial University, to continue providing services for vulnerable Tennesseans. LMU's footprint reaches 33 East Tennessee counties, where they've delivered nearly 50,000 appointments, increasing dental services. LMU will graduate their first dental class this May, with multiple students expressing interest to practice in Northeast Tennessee. The third request supports our Ryan White Insurance Assistance Program with a little over $18 million in state funds. This request is in concert with the federal program, the federal resources, to maintain insurance coverage for 7,700 low-income Tennesseans living with HIV. Maintaining comprehensive coverage facilitates patients staying in care and staying on their medication. Marketplace premiums are projected to increase significantly this year. FY27 funding allows us to avoid midterm disruptions. Our intent is to reevaluate the program needs this year and adjust in a fiscally appropriate manner. Briefly, cost increase 4 is a governor's office initiative to support the Billion Pill Pledge. This increase is $5 million from the Tennessee Opioid Abatement Fund to reduce opioid exposure in Tennessee through a couple of different activities. Our 5th request continues impactful TDH opioid harm reduction work. As you all know, Tennessee, like other states, have seen a increase in opioid mortality in the past few years. In fact, Tennessee lost almost 3,900 residents to overdose in 2022. Fortunately, we've seen a 5% decline in overdose-related mortality in 2023. By offering naloxone through our local health departments, we've helped reduce overdose deaths statewide. This request purchases 20,000 two-dose naloxone units for statewide use with a focus on high-need areas. Non-recurring funding sustains availability and will save lives. Our 6th request adds recurring funds to cover rent costs associated with the new state-of-the-art laboratory. Construction is on schedule and within budget. With the larger square footage, the cost adjustment covers increased facility revolving fund rent payment. Cost increases 7 and 8 are 2 governor's office initiatives. Seeds for Seeing, a $500,000 request to support basic eye care access, and the Live Like Lou Foundation grant is a $1 million request that supports ALS work in Tennessee through a nonprofit partner helping advance services. Go to the next slide. During our House Finance Ways and Means Expansion hearing last Tuesday, we discussed Tennessee's Rural Health Transformation Plan and the governor's capital commitment of $125 million in shared savings. This commitment supported the application we included in the application and will be layered on the $207 million federal award. Because capital projects are not allowed from CMS, this state investment will support projects to strengthen rural health infrastructure. Funds will be competitively awarded for projects with clear scope, timelines, and measurable benefit. The last 4 cost increases utilize shared savings and work together to serve rural Tennesseans. The Center of Excellence request is $1 million. TDH and UT Health Science Center launched the Rural Health COE in August 2025. This funding continues hands-on technical support from the COE to rural providers so communities can move from planning to execution. In addition, the request of $1.4 million is for competitive planning and implementation grants for local rural health solutions tied to the key deliverables. $4.4 million is requested for the Rural Health Training Program. This program will be a competitive opportunity aligned with the federal workforce funds that we hope are coming, expanding the reach of healthcare in rural Tennessee without duplicating efforts. And finally, $1 million is requested for rural specialty care. This will support e-consults and project access initiatives, which began actually January 1st, 2026, so that rural clinics have specialty care backup. Across all 4 shared savings requests, the common thread is execution, impact, and accountability. Mr. Chairman, glad to pause and take questions on the cost increases, or I can keep going through the reductions, whatever your preference.
Just go ahead and finish up your presentation if you don't care.
Yes, sir. So for cost reductions, we focused on reductions that minimize impact to critical health services and day-to-day operations. We've met the target of $3.2 million. This includes elimination of 7 vacant full-time positions. Eliminating these positions is consistent with our staffing pattern and the administration and General Assembly's stewardship of state dollars and government expansion. I want to highlight briefly 2 of the reductions. I'm glad to talk about any of the other reductions as well. Line 12 is a reduction to the Metro Grant and Aid, saving $521,000. These are flexible dollars that cover a range of local public health operating needs. We applied a uniform percentage reduction of 15.85% across the metro allocations. That approach avoids a service cliff in any one metro and allows local partners to manage the reduction in the least disruptive way. Similarly, with our funding, we applied the same on line 13, $521,000 reduction to our local health department grants. Again, these are operating dollars that support day-to-day function of local health departments. We spread those reductions across our 89 counties, keeping the impact small. So a little less than $6,000 per county to minimize the likelihood that any single health department would need to reduce services. Thanks, John. So the last three slides we have are what support for the budget provides for Tennesseans through state health department services, ARPA program investments, and plans for the successful Rural Health Transformation Award that we've received from CMS. So I'll start with the local health department services. We are unique in Tennessee in that we deliver many services, including primary care. Many Tennesseans can get care close to home by visiting a county health department. We emphasize timely preventative care, which reduces urgent and costly emergent care. I want to highlight two impactful services from this list of this more comprehensive list of services. The primary care we provide for men, women, and children occurs in 56 local health department sites. That includes preventative care, chronic disease visits, and acute care regardless of the ability to pay. When we anticipate that, we are anticipating that recent insurance changes may increase the demand signal for preventive and clinical services in our health departments. Lastly, I want to mention the role of local health departments as a trusted place for access to naloxone. Because of the prior budgetary investments and the current investment, health departments are now places where people can walk in without hesitation for naloxone for themselves, a family member, or because they're worried about someone they love. That trusted access point lets us do more than hand someone a kit. We can also provide instruction about how to use it and connect them to treatment and recovery sources, which are so critical. The ARPA highlights that we wanted to share with you, we really appreciate the General Assembly's approval of these different activities. We've managed a portfolio of federally funded projects that strengthen public health and healthcare systems, a total of about $712 million in approved projects. Major investments in statewide infrastructure and capacity includes construction of a new state public health lab, as I mentioned, generational capital improvements for local health department facilities, health department support, including staffing assistance and broader healthcare resiliency investments that expand capacity and strengthen care delivery. It also includes targeted projects like the regional forensic centers in Knox and Hamilton County. We're glad to report all projects are on pace to complete spending within the federally designated timeframes. From that broader portfolio, I'll highlight these three projects on the slide. First is the healthcare resiliency practice transformation and extension work. The investment in UT Chattanooga's Mobile Outreach Center, or Mobile MOC, as they refer to it, provides primary care, preventive services, and caregiver support for older adults across 10 rural counties. In a 9-month report period, the program recorded over 2,200 total touch points, including 1,200 plus patient visits, and generated 634 plus student contact hours. Second is a major HRP capital investment at Fort Loudon Medical Center in Lenoir City. This project completed the advanced care wing expansion, adding 26 beds, including 11 ICU beds, and included a redesign of the emergency department. This investment stimulated also a philanthropic donation, taking the project to a level exceeding that of the originally planned HRP private-public partnership. And those types of projects are scattered all over the state through our HRP work. Third is the renovation and construction of local health departments. Pictured as the new health department in Henderson County, now open and fully operational. It is one of 16 new builds. Additionally, renovations are underway at 62 county health departments. Of those, 34 counties are substantially complete. These generational investments strengthen the front door of public health so people can access services. And lastly, Mr. Chairman, just a brief summary. We talked about this last week, but with the rural health transformation, just a reminder, we applied for $200 million The state was awarded $207 million for the 5-year project period. For the first year of the 5-year project period, we'll make very similar competitive outcomes-driven investments with clear accountability and a focus on sustainability. We're not going to build state obligations when the federal dollars expire. This plan is aimed at numerous gaps in healthcare that drive poor outcomes in rural communities: behavioral health, specialty access, maternal and perinatal care, along with infrastructure and connectivity to support coordinated care. As we implement it, we will keep the oversight disciplined and transparent, using the designated administrative funding to manage the work and report on the progress to the General Assembly. Thanks for considering our budget proposal, and glad to take questions.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you very much for that presentation. Members, we do have several folks on the list. I'm just going to ask everybody and just remind you, we don't want to rush, but we want to be efficient. Just ask your question. Be sure it does pertain to the budget. And if you have any other questions, you can do an offside sometimes with the department. I'm going to start us off talking about the dental program. You already mentioned that. The budget includes this time $24 million non-recurring for the final year of the 5-year pilot program. Of the $70 million that's previously already been appropriated, how much have been spent under each 3 components, which do include the support of dental schools, increasing services, and recruiting and incentivizing dentists to practice in rural Tennessee. So how's that been spent?
John, you
Mr. Chairman, John Webb, Chief of Staff and Deputy Commissioner for Operations. Right now, we're carrying forward $7 million into the current fiscal year. So we've spent, I guess if 70 is the number, we're somewhere around 63 being spent. Of that carry forward, some of that we're going to reinvest into capital items within local health departments. There was a delay in implementing some of our Smile 65 Plus program. And so that's been obligated at this point, and then we project to spend that too. So we'll continue spending as long as y'all keep appropriating it.
How many people do we think that have been served through this 5-year pilot program? Do we have any idea?
As Commissioner mentioned, we've got, almost 14,000 between what UT and Meharry have been able to do at various clinics throughout the state. And so we know for sure that we have those. When you kind of couple that with the impact that LMU has had, because they've pushed almost 50,000 visits over 33 counties. So it's making a real impact as we push forward. Specialty care is a little bit smaller, but those are very specialized services in terms of, dentures, restorative dental services for people that have not historically have access. So the numbers may be small, but it makes a big difference in people's lives.
And just to go a little bit further on that, sorry, Commissioner, go ahead.
Well, I'll just add, Mr. Chairman, that in the last few months, I've had the chance to visit the dental school in Memphis and also in Knoxville for LMU. Really impressive to see the work that's going on and the training. Also, I think when we were in Knoxville, every chair was full. Now, we were visiting that day, but every chair was full. Really impressed by the work they're doing and this model of teaching and training and at the same time providing care to Tennesseans.
Final question. How are we measuring success? I know I certainly see the numbers as far as the folks that have been served, but what metrics are you all capturing to say, hey, this is working and here's why?
Well, I think certainly the kind of just the raw numbers in terms of the expansion of class size, something that we're really interested in putting more metrics around is the number of dentists and hygienists that we get to stay in rural Tennessee, where we have these tremendous deserts of availability. I mean, there are some counties in Tennessee that do not have a dentist. So that is a metric of success that we're going to closely monitor. And the synergy of the dental pilot program and now with rural health transformation focused on our rural counties, we think gives us good momentum.
All right. Thank you very much for that. Chairman Williams, you're recognized.
Thank you, Commissioner. I feel like I see you every third day, which is kind of interesting, but good too. I know back in FY24 in the TennCare expenditure report, there were how we're expending TennCare shared savings. Your department was given several tranches of money. I think 5 tranches of money totaling. I think it's like $125 million for those 5 programs. When you look at the TennCare report compared to your expenditures, there seems as though there hasn't been any of that money expended yet, and we've extended the time of which to deploy that capital. Could you tell me what those initiatives are, what the challenges are with being able to spend that money? The reason why that I think is important is because we're fixing to get $206 million a year for 5 years. And if we're not deploying the capital for an assigned purpose, it may be a little bit of a concern.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Williams. And I'll ask John to elaborate on those tranches of money.
Chairman Williams, you'll remember one of the big pieces of that shared savings was $50 million to go towards capital improvements throughout the state. We have deployed that money. It's obligated for, several projects across the state. And I think we have those scheduled for like 5-year agreements. So those are capital expenditures. Those are going to take a little bit longer to show up, but those are obligated and headed the right way. The other big pieces that we have are really the recommendations for the Rural Health Task Force. We mentioned the Center of Excellence that we just now got launched in August. So it's been delayed. It took some time to get us to that point. We're hoping to play catch up with that because it's a 5-year agreement for $5 million. And then we're planning on spending the full $7 million in grants over the next 5 years that are allocated to that. The specialty care got launched in January. It was really about building a network. We're kind of tapping into our Project Access network where we get free or charitable care for specialty services. But the big one that, we've struggled admittedly trying to get off the ground is related to the rural training pipeline. We had an RFGP out for proposal like this past winter. We withdrew it because it was confusing, admittedly. And with the introduction of the CMS money, that's a big piece of what we want to do is create a training pipeline. So we thought it might be better to withdraw it, put it all out together, and maybe kind of have some cohesiveness between the two efforts.
Okay, well, it's a little bit concerning. We were glad to see in the governor's base budget $125 million for more capital. But when we hadn't spent the capital that we have, it kind of makes it a little bit unnerving, particularly with so many more strings attached to the new money than there is the old money. And so I wanted to make sure, is there anything that still you're concerned about being able to get those dollars released? Or do you feel like it sounds like in each of these different ones, it was more of a delay than it was anything? Are you concerned that you're not going to be able to get that money out the door?
I am not at this point. I feel much better than I did a year ago, just because it takes a little while to kind of build these things up. And I think that we're in a good spot to kind of push those forward and really get them launched this spring.
Yeah. I know this is not this topic, so I beg for forgiveness from my chairman, but I did have a question about the rural health transformation application process. When I look at the actual application and then I look at your spreadsheet, neither of those add up to $1.030 billion. One adds up to like $1.008 billion. The other one adds up to like $983 million. And I even with the rural health transformation application, I used the lower. There were a couple that says we think we could spend a little more of this if given favor. Which is it, or is it the difference, as we call handling costs, for those monies? Could you help me with that? I'm having a hard time.
Yeah, thanks, Chairman Williams. And I'll ask Deputy Commissioner Randolph to talk about that funding process and those numbers.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you for the question, Chairman Williams. In last fall, CMS requested that we present them with an illustrative budget, right? What our budget might look like. And so since we submitted the application in November, some of that has changed in conversation with CMS. And our team would be happy to sit down and walk through each of the items with you. So those items might have changed. Those total amounts may have changed from November, December till now, and that would be the reason. There's often administrative costs as well that wouldn't be reflected in the program costs. So we have a 10% administrative cap, both for the department and any awardees. And those costs may not be reflected in the table.
Yeah. So if we added 10% to the $981.4 million, it's still not balancing. And so that, I think it would be good for you to kind of get with me about that. I've got a little bit of concern there. Of course, the individual tranches are kind of speak for themselves. But when we look at what the big beautiful bill said as it related to these monies, right? There was the $100 million a year for 5, and then the incentivized portion of could be $100 million, but in our case, it was $106 million. When you generate those numbers, is it a equal ratio between each number? So, for instance, if it's $100 million is one of the programmatic portions of the 17. If it's $100 million, is it safe to say that of that $100 million, 46.7% is the guaranteed money, and then the balance is the incentivized money? Or are there some of the 17 components segregated with the guaranteed money, and then the other has strings attached?
Yes, sir. So if I understand your question correctly, you say there's the base load money of 100 million and the workload money. CMS makes a single award with both of those pots of funds that would fill out each budget item. So our budget does not discriminate, nor does CMS when that money comes to Tennessee.
Yeah, I guess what the point I'm trying to bring is, do I take $500 million with no strings attached, or do I take another $530 million with no strings and just say, forget about it. We don't want it. Just give us $500 million, and we don't have to, in my opinion, do things that are not very transformational. And so that's why I'm trying to figure out, is it, if this body said that we didn't want the strings, and we didn't want the strings attached to that additional $530 million, could we?
I think as we've discussed in the past, there would be some fiscal impact, and we've reached out to CMS to see what that potentially could be.
Yeah. Well, but remember, the first $100 million you get.
Yeah.
You just get from being one of the greatest states in the United States. The other $106 million a year for 5 years is what all the strings are attached. The reason why I'm saying that is, if in our modification of the application, we preserve the free money, if you will, and then the cost, the money with strings attached, I think it would give me particularly, and maybe my colleagues in the upper chamber, a little bit more comfort about knowing what the actual impact, because we've had so many discussions about, well, if we do CON or we do scope of practice or we do all those other things, the effort in doing all that stuff may not be worth the strings associated with the $106 million a year for 5 years, particularly when we look back at other times we've taken money from the federal government and we look back and say, oh my gosh, I wish we had taken the money, particularly in education back in 2009. So that's kind of the questions I'm asking. I'd love to have a further discussion with you about how we can preserve the unencumbered money, but still do the quality measures necessary to do the additional money that we could get.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Chairman Williams, for that feedback, and happy to continue the conversation with you and your team.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you. Speaker Zachary, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Team, thank you for the work that you do. A quick question related to the billion bill pledge, the $5 million non-recurring from the opioid abatement fund that we're using toward that. Do you know exactly what organization that will be going to and how those funds will be used to combat the opioid crisis?
It's not on.
Hey, turn his mic on.
Hey, Representative. It's Goldfinch Health is the organization. There are a couple of different programs they have related to education with prescribing of opioids and also collection of unused opioids as well.
And have they received funding from us before, Commissioner? I know you don't have the historical context, but maybe your team.
Yes, sir. Not from the Department of Health that I know of.
Okay. All right. And then what data will be collected to help us know the outcomes of that investment we're making?
Yeah, we'll have to work with the organization on that governor's initiative to make sure that we're giving that money in a fiscally responsible way and know the outcomes.
Yeah, we just want to make sure we'll be able to measure success.
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Representative Love, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman, Commissioner. Thank you for your work. And I'll be talking to you about some other stuff around sickle cell at some point. But did want to reach out to you about this money that's set aside for maternal and infant health that you have listed in your presentation. I know that you know our numbers about maternal mortality and what we have tried to do to reduce those numbers. And the report, of course, gives us good guidelines on what we can be doing. But just want to talk to you at some point after this about what is included in this amount of money. You have, I think, $238 million for maternal and child health. So not to belabor the point today, Chairman, but I'll talk to you online.
Yeah, yes,
offline.
sir. And our team would be more than happy to talk to you about those funds and what we hope to do with them.
Okay, thank you.
Yes,
Thank you,
sir.
Commissioner. Thank you, Chairman.
All right, thank you. Representative Shaw, you're recognized.
I will not belong to time, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to ask, know the Rural Health Initiative, it's going to be a big deal. Have you all kind of got a laid out plan as to how that's going to be initiated? My concern, being in a rural area, is how people will be able to tap into that and get the services. And if you have a short answer, it would be better than a long one.
Yes. Yes, sir. We do have a plan in place. We're kind of sitting on go, waiting for the last approvals. We'll do some stakeholder engagement and let different entities know what the funding opportunities will be. We've met with several this week to have those discussions, but there's some steps that need to take place before we can really invite our partners to the table and describe to them what the opportunities are.
I'll just get with you in the department
Yes,
later.
sir. Yes,
and
sir.
we can talk about that if that's all right. Good.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you. I have no one else on the list except for Leader Lamberth. You're recognized.
Mr. Chairman, I've heard some groans in the background there. I mean, this is a very important topic, and I had 20 or 30 more questions available. Seriously, thank y'all for your testimony today. Before we left, I just want to say, Chairman, thank you. I don't know that we've seen quite a marathon of budget hearings like we have this week. It has been exhausting for the committee, but it has been riveting. You've done a fantastic job of keeping us on pace. Anytime we fell off pace, it was on us, not you. But it has been a really good way to do this. I have enjoyed the fact of being able to focus as much on the budget this week as we possibly could with some of our largest organizations. You guys just happened to get us at the very end, which was good timing on your part. So, but Mr. Chairman, seriously, thank you very much on behalf of the entire committee. Not all of us could be here every single moment of all this, but it was very well run, and we appreciate you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. And of course, let me say this, with finishing up with the Department of Health, I think it's kind of fitting with the amount of money that we're going to be seeing for the next little bit coming through that department. I'm sure this will be just the round two of the discussions, but I'm sure there will be several rounds coming. And thank you all for always being very willing to answer our questions. And I'm certain there are going to be more. So, but thank you all. Thank you for the presentation. Commissioner, thank you. And
Thanks,
your team for
Chairman.
being here.
Thanks, committee.
All right, without objection, we're going to go back into session. And that does complete our business for this year as far as budget hearings are concerned. So do we have any further business coming before the committee? Hearing none and seeing none, we stand adjourned. Without objection.